Chapter 741, Immortal Zombie Discussion. Speaking of the door of the discussion hall, it had quite the origin. It was created by the founder of Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. This predecessor's name was already lost in history, but his methods were simply divine. The door was filled with all sorts of Dao marks. Some people had guessed that consumable immortal goo were used on it. Only immortal zombies in Northern Plains could be acknowledged by the door, and would be able to push it open. If it was not someone who ascended to a Gu immortal in Northern Plains, their immortal aperture world would have the heaven and earth chi of other regions. Once their hand is placed on it, they would be repelled. If one was a Northern Plains Gu immortal, but not an immortal zombie, this door would heavier than a mountain, they would not be able to push it at all. Although Fang Yuan was not born in Northern Plains, after reaching Northern Plains, he had adapted to the environment and had ascended to an immortal in Northern Plains, thus this door did not hinder him at all. Dark Flow Giant City had expanded many times throughout history, but this door had been preserved intentionally. The members of Northern Plains Zombie Alliance were very confident in this door. When they heard Huang Quanwang's words, their gazes towards Fang Yuan became milder. Yin Lu Gong nodded. Huang Quanwang is right, you too, take a seat, you are just in time for the meeting. In addition, give Guyi some credit, he recommended a new member. According to the rules, he should be given 300 contribution points. Fang Yuan knew that recommending a new member had benefits, but after hearing this, he immediately turned his gaze towards Guyi beside him. Guyi felt ashamed when he was stared at, like he had taken major advantage. He pulled Fang Yuan's arm. Come, Brother Sha, sit beside me. Everyone saw this and felt a deeper impression of Fang Yuan's ignorance. In the discussion hall, the immortal zombies sat nearly in a circular manner. Only the direction that led to the discussion hall's door was left empty, forming a path for them to walk in and out. The other directions were filled with seats. These seats were not in one row, from high to low, there were 3 rows. The lowest row was for rank 6 immortal zombies, there were the most number of people on this row. The center row was for rank 7 immortal zombies, only a few were present. The highest row was empty, it was for rank 8 immortal zombies. Guyi dragged Fang Yuan with much enthusiasm towards his seat. His seat was not empty, there was a will there, the appearance of the will greatly resembled Guyi. Guyi waved his hand and the will entered his mind, he immediately asked Fang Yuan to sit down. The meeting is not always attended in person, if we are busy, we will use a will to participate instead of our main bodies. Brother Sha, do you have wisdom path Gu worms? If you do not, I will give you one. Guyi said in a low voice. Of course I do. Fang Yuan replied. He expressed ignorance in relation to Zombie Alliance, but he did not want everyone to think that he was a complete newbie. The effect of wisdom path Gu worms was common knowledge among Gu immortals, he had to know them. Fang Yuan answered as he sat to the left of Guyi. The 2 seats beside Guyi were empty. There were so many seats, most of the immortal zombies were seated far from each other. Although there were more than 20 of them, most were wills, only a small number attended in person. Seeing that Fang Yuan and Guyi had sat down, Yin Lu Gong coughed, all right, now we will start the meeting. First, we will talk about the important affairs. Saying this, he pointed at the table. An image was shown, a spherical figure rose up from the center, turning into a volcano. This volcano was quite strange, it was short like a gourd. It shook intensely, spewing lava out at times. Above the volcano, thick smoke was rumbling, almost forming a dark cloud and blocking out the sunlight. The flame furnace has erupted, I'm sure everyone knows this. This is a troublesome affair, we have to settle this by suppressing it as soon as possible. The longer it is dragged out, the harder it is to deal with. Our initial assessment is, if anyone can successfully suppress the flame furnace, they will get 1,000 Zombie Alliance contribution points. Yin Lu Gong said. The immortal zombie began to converse with each other softly. Gu introduced for Fang Yuan, this flame furnace is a great place for Gu refinement, it is especially good for refining fire path Gu worms. In the history of Zombie Alliance, there was once a refinement path immortal zombie who refined immortal Gu in the flame furnace. But for the last few hundred years, we have not seen any refinement path grandmaster in Zombie Alliance. The flame furnace was left forgotten, at most the leader only used it several times, because it was unused, it was also not maintained, thus it is erupting more regularly. Fang Yuan nodded. Guyi continued, the flame furnace is extremely hot, especially the inner core area, it is like a sea of fire. Often when the issues happen, fire path immortal zombies would go. But the fire path immortal zombie has to have some refinement path background. They have to preserve or even fix the Gu formation that was set up, otherwise, forceful suppression would destroy it, they might as well not do anything. If the mission fails, not only would they earn nothing, they might even lose out. Fang Yuan mentally understood this clearly. They had to be of fire path cultivation and have refinement path attainment, this resulted in very few eligible people. No wonder those in the hall only discussed it for a while before keeping quiet, turning their gaze towards a certain will in the hall. Yin Lu Gong broke the silence, he looked at the will, saying, in the past, leader went to suppress it personally, but now that leader is in Eastern Sea, within our zombie alliance, you are the most suitable person, craftsman Huada. Huada, what do you think? This red will thought about it before saying, my cultivation level is too low, it is very hard to suppress the flame furnace. But if everyone agrees, I will not reject it. Except that 1,000 contribution points is simply too low. Yin Lu Gong nodded, 1,000 contribution points is only an initial estimation, in that case, we will raise it to 1,200, are you willing to accept that? I am willing. Hua Will said. Good, now, on to the second matter. Yin Lu Gong did not drag on, he changed the topic, a Xianxia octopus has appeared in Earth Trench, it is wreaking havoc. It is seriously affecting our extraction of the black oil. A while ago, Dr. Yin Xian and landlord Lei Yu were injured by this ancient desolate beast, if you can chase this beast away, you will get 1,000 contribution points. If you can kill this beast, you will be given 2,000 contribution points. Fang Yuan heard this and his heart jumped. The treasure that he wanted to take was deep within Earth Trench, and was guarded by a group of Xianxia octopuses. This treasure was the reason why he joined Northern Plains Zombie Alliance now. New chapters will be fully updated at novl.bin.com. In the circular area, the image of the volcano changed, it became an octopus monster, roaming around in Earth Trench. Large numbers of tentacles were moving around, causing waves in the thick black oil. Seeing this, the discussion hall became much quieter. It was not easy to deal with an ancient desolate beast. Not only did ancient desolate beasts have rank 7 Gu immortal battle strength, the immortal zombie themselves were inferior to ordinary Gu immortals, they had much to worry about. An intense battle carried great risks. If they could not gain something, they would return with a huge loss. Even if they won, they would need to weigh it with their condition before battling. Winning the battle, but losing out in terms of profits, they might as well not fight. All of the immortal zombies here were astute. Seeing no answers, Yin Lu Gong turned his head towards Dragon Commander Yi Cha beside him. Dragon Commander, this Xianxia octopus is compatible with your business, why don't you take on this task? But Dragon Commander Yi Cha shook his head, rejecting on the spot, I'll not hide it from you, I received Qin Bai Sheng's invitation and have planned to attend the auction. There are some items in the auction that I have been searching for years. Now is a crucial time, I cannot take the risk. But I am willing to hand out an additional 600 contribution points to this mission. Once he said that, many of the rank 6 immortal zombies' eyes flashed. Killing this Xianxia octopus was not easy for rank 6 immortal zombies. But to force it to retreat, it would not be difficult for several rank 6 immortal zombies teaming up. But this mission only awarded 1,000 contribution points earlier. When split among them, it was too little. Now that Dragon Commander Xianxia took out 600 contribution points on his own, some people were moved. Battling with an ancient desolate beast was risky undoubtedly, but as long as the benefits were enough, risks were not an obstacle. Immediately, 3 groups of people stated that they could accept this mission. The first 2 groups were alliances of rank 6 immortal zombies. The third was a single rank 7 immortal zombie. After some negotiations, this mission was taken by the rank 7 immortal zombie. Seeing that this troublesome mission was taken by someone, Yin Lu Gong sighed in relief mentally. Next is the last mission. It involves the Red Fiend Divine Boat. Red Fiend Divine Boat? Fang Yuan's gaze shined. He quickly thought of that glorious and huge flying boat that charged freely in the battlefield during the 5 regions' chaotic war. Guyi beside him explained softly, "You just joined Zombie Alliance, it is normal that you do not know. Red Fiend Divine Boat is a famous immortal Gu house in history, it is very powerful." Earlier, a Northern Plains lone cultivator coincidentally obtained the entire recipe for the Red Fiend Divine Boat, but because he did not have the ability to refine it, he tried selling it everywhere. Leader tried to buy this boat's recipe, paying a huge price and buying about half of this recipe. Fang Yuan thought, this Northern Plains Zombie Alliance leader had quite the ambition. Immortal Gu houses were more complete than immortal killer moves, they were the symbol of super forces. Basically, every super force owned an immortal Gu house. Northern Plains Zombie Alliance's leader wanted to obtain an immortal Gu house, that was obviously an intention to elevate this branch to the level of a super force. We encountered some problems. Yin Lu Gong said in a low tone, the Gu immortal who sold the divine boat's recipe broke the agreement and did not want to deal with us anymore. He wants to sell the Red Fiend divine boat's recipe and the core immortal Gu's recipe in the auction for a good price. How will Zombie Alliance deal with this problem? The immortal zombies started discussing again. The auction again. These recent days, I have been extorted many times, all because of this auction. An immortal zombie was full of grievance, but it was not Gu Yi. This Gu immortal has quite the guts, merely a lone cultivator but actually breaking the agreement with our zombie alliance. Kill him, we have to kill him, otherwise if news spread, all of our zombie alliance's face will be lost. Although Zombie Alliance is weaker than a super force, lone cultivators have no place to bully us. The immortal zombies shouted, most wanted to battle. Fang Yuan nodded secretly, although immortal zombies had much to worry about, when huge benefits were involved, they would still dare to fight it out. But he did not favor Zombie Alliance's chances, because in his previous life, the force who controlled the Red Fiend Divine Boat was not them. Chapter 742, Earth Trench Black Oil. The lone cultivator who sold the complete recipe for the Red Fiend Divine Boat was only rank 6 without any background. Eventually, the Zombie Alliance decided to send a rank 7 immortal zombie and 2 rank 6 immortal zombies to search for this person, in order to maintain Zombie Alliance's reputation. Of course, the most important reason was to obtain the complete recipe of the Red Fiend Divine Boat. But in truth, Zombie Alliance had already gotten most of it, only the few remaining core immortal Gu recipes and the secret methods on how to coordinate the Gu worms were left. Flame Furnace, Earth Trench, Red Fiend Divine Boat, after these 3 matters were settled, the atmosphere in the discussion hall was relaxed. Yin Lu Gong continued, pointing at the table, next, we will talk about other matters. His finger tapped the table, emitting a buzzing noise. The immortal zombies looked at the formerly empty space, as the image changed again, turning into 4 huge pillars. On each of the pillars, there were lines of words moving around. Are there still any missions that have not been reported by everyone? Yin Lu Gong said. Everyone looked around, no one stood up. Missions could be turned in at any time, they did not need to wait until a meeting. Gu did not want to do the mission of guarding Old Earth Wood, but the time limit was not up yet. Handing in the mission early would cause some of his contribution points to be deducted. Very well, now you can put up your own requests. Yin Lu Gong said. Once he said that, the entire discussion hall became heated. Voices overlapped each other. They were talking about Gu recipes for Gu refinement, collecting certain materials, appraising a certain Gu worm, getting information on certain matters. All sorts of requests were put up, with varying content. Fang Yuan spoke too. He wanted to ask for a method to get rid of his immortal zombie status, a method that could revive him. This caused much laughter around him. Brother Sha, you have not made an oath yet, you do not have a zombie alliance token yet, without contribution points, how can you put up a mission? Gu Yi reminded him. So that's it. Fang Yuan frowned. Don't be anxious, after the meeting ends, I will bring you to get your new identity token. This token can record all of the contributions you have done for the Alliance. Furthermore, your request is the request of all of us immortal zombies, you do not need to purchase it specially. Look at the few missions at the top. Gu Yi pointed at the ever-changing image. Fang Yuan's gaze turned around, and he saw that at the top of the mission board, there were several missions. One of them had much larger font than the rest. Selling the research results of how to get rid of the zombie status and regain life through generations of work in Zombie Alliance. Fang Yuan read it. There are prices stated there, but even the smallest research results need 20 contribution points. Gu Yi was very familiar with this information. In truth, every immortal zombie was very familiar with the details of this mission. What was the reason most immortal zombies joined Zombie Alliance? Was it not to find a method to get rid of their immortal zombie status and revive themselves? The reason for creating Zombie Alliance was also to research on how to revive immortal zombies. Brother Gu, are there any immortal zombies in Zombie Alliance who have revived due to these research findings? Fang Yuan asked again. According to rumors, there seems to be cases of it. Gu Yi said in an uncertain tone. Seems to be. Fang Yuan frowned. You have to know, a lot of the research findings here are priced at 1,000 contribution points or more to exchange them. After you join the alliance, you have to sign an agreement and will not be allowed to sell these research findings on your own. Gu Yi laughed bitterly as he said. He saw Fang Yuan frowning even more deeply, stating, you do not need to worry too much, at least I can guarantee that these findings are not fake. I had exchanged for one of them previously, it had great use. If you can obtain these findings, you will be able to step on the foundation of these predecessors, you will save much effort. Fang Yuan nodded. Zombie Alliance was an organization that responded to the mentality of the members. By using the research findings as the bait to keep the members working, almost no immortal zombies could stay away. Even if the immortal zombie exchanges for many findings, as long as they have not revived, they would still need to work for Zombie Alliance. The most amazing thing was that Zombie Alliance preserved some hope for the immortal zombies, even if this research finding did not work, maybe the next one could help them to revive. Fang Yuan did not need to ponder upon it to know that the prices would be extremely high, they had to use an immense amount of contribution points to exchange for most of the research findings. But thankfully, the inheritance in Earth Trench was left behind by a great expert immortal zombie. There are research findings inside for the rebirth of immortal zombies as well. In my previous life, because Northern Plains immortal zombies obtained this, their battle strength surged rapidly. In fact, for a period of time, Northern Plains Zombie Alliance closed themselves away from the rest of the regions, it was even more powerful than the main branch, Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. The reason why Fang Yuan entered Northern Plains Zombie Alliance was to obtain that inheritance. Fang Yuan had little interest in working hard normally and accumulating contribution points slowly in order to exchange for the research findings in Zombie Alliance. After all, the time and effort expended was too much. After a while, the discussion hall became silent again. All the immortal zombies had put up their missions and stated the contribution points for them. Everyone's gazes were fixed on the image in front of them, some were looking around while others were thinking. Yin Lu Gong continued to direct the meeting. We will now issue missions. Do it one by one, do not be noisy. First, it will be the mission of feeding the ancient desolate beast Half Moon Qilin in Zombie Alliance. I'll do it. Explore. L//bin.c. M. I'll take this mission. I want to compete for this mission. The moment Yin Lu Gong spoke, several immortal zombies responded, fighting for this mission. Gu Yi explained to Fang Yuan softly, the Half Moon Qilin is an ancient desolate beast, it is not easy to feed. But its pregnancy period is about to end, it is going to give birth to a Half Moon Qilin soon. These young Qilin are born as desolate beasts. As they grow up, they would develop into ancient desolate beast Half Moon Qilin. Many members in Zombie Alliance are trying to take advantage of this. They want to be close to the young Qilin to gain an advantage, making it their own, and establish a strong relationship between them before paying the contribution points. So that is it. Fang Yuan understood, so this was the reason. No wonder so many people were fighting over the mission. After all, the Half Moon Qilin would grow into an ancient desolate beast after maturing. It had battle strength equivalent to rank 7 Gu immortals. Even Fang Yuan was slightly moved. But he was only moved, he had just arrived and had a secret motive. Blindly contesting now would attract unnecessary animosity and attention, it was not good for him. Regarding the Half Moon Qilin's feeding, everyone fought over it intensely. Eventually, Yin Lu Gong lowered the contribution points of this mission to 300, before some people gave up and the sole winner emerged. Feeding the Half Moon Qilin was not an easy task. Sometimes, when the Qilin has a bad temper, ordinary rank 6 immortal zombies could not handle it, they might even get injured. Most importantly, when the Qilin is pregnant, it would feel great pain, it would damage the surroundings to divert its attention. This was a dangerous process. Just 300 contribution points made many immortal zombies back out. And even if the Half Moon Qilin was born, the immortal zombie feeding it would only be the first to establish a relationship. This was only a head start. When they truly competed for it later, they would still need to bid a high price. After the mission of feeding the Half Moon Qilin, was a mission to gather Rui fungus. Rui fungus collection area is between Zombie Alliance and Lu tribe. Every year, when the Rui fungus ripes, the two forces would split them. But because Lu tribe's power is bigger, they would take advantage of us. The difficulty of this mission is on that point. An immortal zombie with high cultivation level is needed to hold the ground, but they cannot be too overbearing. Gu Yi explained. With Gu Yi beside him, it was much more convenient for Fang Yuan. This mission was also quite popular. It fell into the hands of Granny Yuan. This immortal zombie old lady not only had rank 7 cultivation level, she was also closely related to Lu tribe. With her presence, Lu tribe would not go overboard. Next is a request from the Super Force Yao tribe. They want us to provide another immortal zombie for Yao Huang to do research, to improve his healing immortal Gu. The remuneration for this request is quite a sum. Yin Lu Gong said. Seeing this mission, most of the immortal zombies showed an indescribable expression on their faces. Letting someone else do research on them, it was quite hurtful to one's pride, they would lose face. But on the other hand, the researcher was Yao Huang, one of the 5 great rank 8 Gu immortals in Northern Plains. Furthermore, the reward for this mission was truly profitable. Everyone looked around, they did not speak. Yin Lu Gong expected this scene, he smiled lightly as he looked at Fang Yuan. I wonder if Sha Huang is interested in this mission. Fang Yuan immediately shook his head, giving a forced smile, I have no interest. He had too many secrets on him, simply the two apertures alone could not be easily exposed. Yin Lu Gong nodded, no longer urging him. But his intention, other than to probe Fang Yuan's personality and foundation, was to induce some of the other immortal zombies to make a move. As he expected, soon, several immortal zombies spoke up, wanting to accept this mission. These few people competed, but their voices were not loud, they spoke softly with expressionless faces. After all, being used as research material was very damaging to one's reputation. Guyi was beside Fang Yuan, explaining this to him. Fang Yuan knew the situation of these immortal zombies, they were those bottom-tier immortal zombies, because they were stuck between reputation and benefits, they chose the latter. The following missions were of all different aspects, there was a huge number of different missions. There was a mission requesting the Super Force Yuan tribe to return an immortal Gu. Back then, Zombie Alliance's leader had loaned an immortal Gu to Yuan tribe. Before the leader went to Eastern Sea, she instructed them to urge Yuan tribe to return the immortal Gu. But Yuan tribe had long exceeded the loan period, yet they refused to return it. Zombie Alliance would send members there every year to request for it, but they had always ended in failure. Not only did Yuan tribe find excuses for themselves, they even chased away Zombie Alliance members using force when the situation escalated. Initially, no immortal zombie wanted to take this mission. Yin Lu Gong had to raise the contribution points and it was finally accepted by someone. There were also requests for purchasing glass soil and diamond soil, missions to capture beast groups or collect souls. The final mission was related to Fang Yuan. It came from Fairy Li Shan who was looking for souls everywhere for the production of Daoist Gu. She even went to Zombie Alliance. The most popular mission was to enter deep into Earth Trench and collect black oil. Black oil was extremely helpful to immortal zombies. Spreading the black oil in the dead aperture could slow the speed of the disintegration of the blessed land. In the outside world, or to other Gu immortals, it was a very useful Gu refinement material that was widely used, it had a huge market. Black oil from Earth Trench was the most important trading item in Zombie Alliance, it was akin to the sale of Daoist Gu for Fang Yuan. But the scale of the black oil trade was much larger than the Daoist Gu trade. Every time immortal zombies went deep into the Earth Trench to extract black oil, other than handing up the amount required by the mission, they would keep the rest for themselves. Thus, the profit of this mission was publicly recognized as among the best for immortal zombies. As a result, almost everyone fought for this mission. Fang Yuan wanted to compete for it as well. If he could enter Earth Trench through this and secretly take that inheritance, it would be ideal. But it was a pity that he had just arrived, he did not have the Zombie Alliance token yet, it was not wise or realistic to fight for it blindly. Furthermore, this mission had a time limit too. Fang Yuan was busy with the auction and refinement path convention, he did not have time to deal with this mission. Eventually, this mission was taken by 3 immortal zombies. In winning the 3 spots on this mission, not only would these 3 victors not have any contribution points as rewards, they even had to pay several hundred contribution points to Zombie Alliance. From this, one could see how profitable the extraction of black oil was. Chapter 743, Harboring Malicious Heart. Black oil is valuable in itself, but as it can delay the shrinking of blessed lands, its value is a level higher to immortal zombies. Fang Yuan pondered inwardly, he was also coveting the black oil. His blessed land was constantly disintegrating and a lot of space inside had already dissipated. Black oil was similarly useful to him. However, he needed to go through Zombie Alliance to get this black oil. Northern Plains Zombie Alliance's main headquarters, Dark Flow Giant City, was located above the entrance of Earth Trench and they used much of the Alliance's strength to guard this entrance. Zombie Alliance sent large amounts of black oil out every year, but they had fixed quantities sold for this. There were few goods but the demands were high, it was completely a seller's market like the business of Daoist Gu, thus Fang Yuan could not meddle in this aspect. He had allied with Fairy Li Shan and He Lu Lan, but their force was too small and could not match with super forces. So I need to make my move from inside Zombie Alliance. Accepting this task is one way. Fang Yuan engraved the mission of gathering black oil in his mind. The conference continued. The conference hall had dim lighting. Even if most of the over 20 immortal zombies had participated with their wills, it still seemed dark and gloomy. The whole conference continued for close to a day and a night. Fang Yuan participated in the whole process, roughly understanding the position of Zombie Alliance in Northern Plains. Roughly speaking, Zombie Alliance's position in Northern Plains was only slightly lower than super forces. But from the missions, one could see the righteous path super forces were clearly in tacit agreement to suppress Zombie Alliance. Zombie Alliance had a much more cooperative relationship with demonic path Gu immortals, especially with Snowy Mountain Blessed Land, a demonic path headquarters in Northern Plains. Zombie Alliance could be considered both a righteous and a demonic force. This position was related to the higher-ups. Zombie Alliance's higher-ups were all immortal zombies. There were almost no immortal zombies that did not want to regain their living states. These immortal zombies came from all walks of life with all sorts of identities when they were alive, and after death, they gathered for similar purposes. As long as it was related to the goal of revival, Zombie Alliance would be interested and do everything possible to get it. This infringed upon many of the righteous path's interests, and many methods that could not be exposed openly in the righteous path, Zombie Alliance also frequently used. This led to another characteristic of Zombie Alliance: they had a lot of members but they also had a loose structure. There were over 20 immortal zombie-level members in Zombie Alliance. Even Snowy Mountain Blessed Land could not compare to this amount. Even if immortal zombies were weaker than living Gu immortals, over 20 of them was a great power, and if they were to truly be united, they would have already been a super-level force. However, Zombie Alliance's barrier for entry was low. This could be seen from Fang Yuan's admission to the Alliance. The immortal zombies had varying origins and it was very difficult for them to be united. This was the reason there were many cases of immortal zombies being extorted by Gu immortals recently. After the conference ended, Fang Yuan left behind a malicious will in the conference hall. He then followed Gu Yi to another hall, where he received his Zombie Alliance token. This token not only represented his identity, it also recorded Fang Yuan's contributions to Zombie Alliance. Besides the token, there was also a set of information path Mortal Gu used to transmit information of tasks from Zombie Alliance, information about new members or members leaving the Alliance, or important information like the death of the members. Gu Yi wanted to take his leave, and suggested for Fang Yuan to stroll around Dark Flow Giant City. Now that Fang Yuan had the token, he could freely move around Dark Flow Giant City. However, Fang Yuan did not let go of him and dragged him around, walking and chatting, probing out some information from him. Fang Yuan focused on inquiring about the leader of Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. She was a female immortal zombie called Blazing Heaven Demoness. Her cultivation was rank 8 and her behavior was tyrannical and rampant. Her battle strength was especially prominent. Fang Yuan asked how it was prominent and Gu Yi replied one sentence which allowed Fang Yuan to understand: her lifespan had not reached its end, but she intentionally turned into an immortal zombie just to break through. Most immortal zombies were Gu immortals that were on their last breaths and had no other choice. Naturally, there was many other methods other than to turn into immortal zombie for Gu immortals on their last breaths. Like would path Gu immortals turning into tree men. However, these methods often had limitations. For instance, strength path Gu immortals and fire path Gu immortals could not turn into tree men. Turning into an immortal zombie was the most common method which could be done by Gu immortals of every path. Phi. This blazing heaven demoness was not someone who had no choice but to turn into an immortal zombie, instead she had done it intentionally. It was to make a breakthrough and increase her battle strength. If one thought just a bit, what was the extent of the increase in battle strength, the extent of the breakthrough, that made blazing heaven demoness not hesitate to turn into an immortal zombie? Clearly, the extent of this breakthrough was sure to be extremely high and shocking. There is a rumor going around Zombie Alliance. It is said that the leader already has a method to revive. In the midst of the conversation, Gu lowered his voice and carefully told Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan smiled. This rumor was not groundless, since she turned into an immortal zombie of her own accord, who is to say she did not have a method to revive herself. Fang Yuan was able to extract much useful information from Gu Yi. Combined with the information Fairy Li Shan gave him and his own experiences, Fang Yuan was able to quickly gain a rough idea of Zombie Alliance. Gu Yi still had the mission of guarding Old Earth Wood, and finally bade farewell to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan also left soon after. Before leaving, he climbed high and looked at the giant gully being guarded below Dark Flow Giant City. The giant gully was like the bloody mouth of a vicious beast, quietly opening up in the dense darkness. This was the entrance of Earth Trench, which was strictly guarded by Zombie Alliance. Yin Lu Gong, Dragon Commander Yi Cha and Huang Quan Wang, 3 rank 7 immortal zombies took turns in watching over it. Fang Yuan was using 100 Li Eye to observe this clearly. He knew that following deep into this entrance, the gully would expand by tens of times and even hundreds of times. Earth Trench was extremely grand, with such large space that it would not be a problem to contain innumerable dark flow giant cities. It was also extremely deep and dark. Zombie Alliance still had not explored its true depths. One day, I will explore deep inside and take the inheritance, adding it to my foundation for a much brighter future. But now is not the time. Fang Yuan inwardly said. Even if he had not transformed into an immortal zombie, he would have tried all sorts of methods to get this inheritance. Fang Yuan retracted his gaze, his body rapidly rose higher and left Dark Flow Giant City like a large bird. After flying a huge distance, Fang Yuan finally left the darkness covering Dark Flow Giant City and saw the bright sunlight again. He changed his direction and flew high up in the sky before he finally confirmed there were no pursuers. Only then did he land down in an inconspicuous forest, arranged Mortal Gu and activated Fixed Immortal Travel. Jade green light flashed and he disappeared from the spot. The Mortal Gu left behind moved about, removing as many traces of the Immortal Gu aura as possible. Fang Yuan returned to Hu Immortal Blessed Land. While waiting for news from Fairy Li Shan's end, he started researching the Wisdom Path Killer move, Harboring Malicious Heart. This mortal killer move was not meant for attacking. Instead, it used Wisdom Path methods to transform a Gu immortal's heart, causing the heart to be filled with Wisdom Path Dao marks inside and out, turning into a malicious heart. If it succeeded, not only could it use one's blood essence to automatically create large numbers of malicious wills, it could also reduce the amount of malicious wills consumed by a large extent when Fang Yuan used them to ponder. Unfortunately, this mortal killer move might be good but it fit a normal Gu immortal. Fang Yuan was a Strength Path immortal zombie, his heart was already filled with Strength Path Dao marks and he was not a Wisdom Path Gu immortal. The crucial point was his physical body was already dead, and was unable to nourish malicious will with his blood essence. Even transforming his heart into a malicious heart was an enormous barrier. Although Fang Yuan could not use the killer move Harboring Malicious Heart, he was able to gain much inspiration from its workings. In particular, the inner contents of the killer move had several similarities to a killer move Fang Yuan obtained previously. This killer move was Poison Breath, which he obtained from Fairy Li Shan. Poison Breath killer move could let poisonous breath be emitted each time one breathed, and as it accumulated, it could injure enemies. And harboring malicious heart could let every heartbeat transform blood essence into malicious will. There were indeed similarities between the two. I am not a poison path Gu immortal, and I am lacking in a wisdom path foundation, but since there is a common point, I might as well use wisdom Gu to test it. Northern Plains, Fengxian Grotto Heaven. In the guest hall, the rank 8 Gu immortal, Prince Fengxian, was sitting upright, while Fairy Li Shan and Qin Baixing bowed, requesting to leave. Go. I have many immortal Gu that do not suit my path and need to be exchanged in the auction. You both are holding a good event for Northern Plains, preventing many fights and massacres, very good. Prince Fengxian allowed them to leave, his tone full of encouragement. Lord Prince being unable to be present at the auction is truly a matter of regret for all of Northern Plains Gu immortals. Fairy Li Shan flattered. Prince Fengxian shook his head, there is nothing to be done about it. I was mediating the heaven and earth chi in my immortal aperture when I was forced to come out because of the immortal Gu. Now, it is the crucial time to manage my immortal aperture world, I cannot go out. But when the time comes, I will send someone to represent me. Yulan, send them off. 2 attendants were standing beside Prince Fengxian, these 2 were actually rank 6 female Gu immortals. One was cool and refined like ice and snow, the other was delicate and beautiful, like a yellow flower in a lush valley. At Prince Fengxian's command, that cool and aloof female Gu immortal stood up and first bowed to Prince Fengxian, before saying to Qin Baixing and Fairy Li Shan, guests, please follow. We have troubled Swordmaster Yulan. Qin Baixing and Fairy Li Shan did not dare to be conceited, and quickly replied. This Swordmaster Yulan was famous in Northern Plains. She cultivated sword path, and though her cultivation was only at rank 6, her battle strength was very strong and moreover, she had Grandmaster attainment in sword path. Swordmaster Yulan led the 2 in silence. The 3 walked along a long corridor and through several doors before they finally stepped out of the entrance of the Grotto Heaven and returned to the world of Northern Plains. Swordmaster Yulan, please stay, you don't need to send us off any longer. Qin Baixing politely said. His cultivation level and battle strength were higher than Swordmaster Yulan, but the latter had one of the few rank 8 Gu immortals of Northern Plains behind her, he naturally would not be arrogant. Swordmaster Yulan nodded and closed the entrance of the Grotto Heaven. Once the entrance was closed, there was no strangeness in the sky and there was no difference between the sky and the surroundings. Fairy Li Shan let out a breath of cloudy air. We have paid visit to 5 rank 8 powers and also came to an agreement with all of them using Mountain Pledge Gu, and have successfully invited them. Now, the situation is set, the auction is a certain event. It is all thanks to Fairy's Mountain Pledge Gu. Qin Baixing with a smiling expression. Saying this, he took out an immortal Gu and handed it to Fairy Li Shan. As per the agreement, this is the remuneration to Fairy. Qin Baixing said with sincerity and gratitude. Fairy Li Shan was moved, the auction had yet to start, but Qin Baixing already gave the remuneration to her in advance. Even though Fairy Li Shan had seen a lot and had done dealings with all sorts of Gu immortals, right now, she could not help but inwardly praise Qin Baixing's social conduct. Chapter 744, Vaguely Familiar Face. Then I shall not stand on ceremony. Fairy Li Shan laughed, receiving the immortal Gu. She inspected it and placed the immortal Gu into her immortal aperture. This matter has been settled, we should split up and meet half a month later. Half a month later was the agreed date to hold the auction. The location was in Qin Baixing's Baixing Blessed Land, it was situated inside Crimson Reed Marsh. The 2 immortals went their separate ways on the spot, choosing different directions as they flew. Not mentioning Fairy Li Shan, who was using moving perspective cup Gu to contact Fang Yuan while she traveled right now. After Fairy Li Shan and Qin Baixing left, someone appeared in the entrance hall of Fengxian Grotto Heaven. This person was dressed in a red and white robe, standing straight like a spear or sword. His eyebrows were sharp like swords, a divine light was flashing in his eyes. Under his amicable appearance, he was unbelievably self-confident. He had the disposition of a roaming, fierce dragon. His lips were curled up into a gentle smile. He was very gentlemanly but also domineering. His arms were behind his back. He faced the rank 8 Prince Feng Xian with no pressure on his face, as if they were of equal status. But from his unconcealed aura, he was merely a rank 7 Gu immortal. Even Qin Bai Sheng could not help but lower his head when facing Prince Feng Xian. L. Audioist Nov. LS on, N. Velby / Co. Prince Feng Xian looked at this person as his attitude also changed. He was no longer mildly arrogant like when he faced Qin Bai Sheng and Fairy Li Shan. He really acted as if the two were of the same level. This rank 8 Gu immortal spoke. Feng Gu, have you really decided to take my place and join this auction? The rank 7 Gu immortal dressed in a red and white robe smiled as he nodded. That is exactly the case. Prince Feng Xian frowned. You became an immortal in Central Continent. The heaven and earth chi of your immortal aperture world come from Central Continent. It is different from Northern Plains. There are powerful experts going to the auction. Even rank 8 Gu immortals will be present. If you are discovered, it would be terrible. You have to know, all of Northern Plains Gu immortals are furious right now. They are trying to find the culprit who caused the downfall of Imperial Court Blessed Land. Before Dong Fang Chang Fan died, he deduced that the culprit is not from Northern Plains, but from the other regions. If your identity as a Central Continent Gu immortal is discovered at this time, it will have huge implications. When Prince Feng Xian said this, he did not hide it from the two Gu immortal attendants. The two female Gu immortals, including Swordmaster Yulan, had no change in expression when they heard this. Feng Gu laughed brightly. Prince, don't be anxious, look at my method. Saying so, a bright light flashed on his body, as his appearance changed. Prince Feng Xian gasped lightly, while Swordmaster Yulan, who had a cold attitude, stared with wide-opened eyes. The other female Gu immortal, named Lu Yao, opened her mouth as she looked repeatedly between her female companion and Feng Gu. It turns out, Feng Gu transformed into an exact copy of Swordmaster Yulan. He resembled her perfectly, as if they were twins. What method is this? Prince Feng Xian smiled, praising, not only is the outer appearance flawless, you even disguised your Dao marks, they really resemble sword path Dao marks. Your aura is also no different from any Northern Plains Gu immortal. This is vaguely familiar face. Feng Gu said the answer. So that's it, no wonder, no wonder. Prince Feng Xian realized, he then exclaimed, only thieving heaven demon venerable could produce something so mystical and breathtaking. Feng Gu nodded, unfamiliar face, vaguely familiar face, and familiar face. This series of killer moves originated from thieving heaven demon venerable. The former is a mortal killer move, it is nothing much. Vaguely familiar face is an immortal killer move with 3 immortal Gu as the core, among them are 2 transformation path immortal Gu. When used, deception will truly be hard to tell. I obtained this killer move long ago in a chance encounter, but it has a flaw, that is, I need acting skills. If I act poorly, my tone could expose flaws in my transformation. As for familiar face killer move, there is no such flaw. Even if the acting is not precise, others will not feel sudden strangeness, it can even affect other people's perceptions and mentalities. Even if you transform into a non-existent person, others will still feel like you are their friend or acquaintance. Feng Gu explained. The immortals realized now why Feng Gu transformed into Swordmaster Yulan out of everyone here. That was because this woman barely spoke normally, there was not much acting skill needed to disguise as her. Prince Feng Xian nodded over and over, rank 9 venerables are all incredible geniuses, their methods are out of this world. With this move, I will not be afraid of you getting exposed. Feng Gu laughed arrogantly, even if I get exposed, who can stop me from leaving? Prince Feng Xian thought about a few days ago when he sparred with Feng Gu, he could not help but smile, praising, that is true, your immortal killer move has incredible power, even I, a rank 8 Gu immortal, would not want to take the hit directly. Feng Gu, your reputation is well deserved, you really have the power to roam freely in this world. Feng Gu cupped his fists, speaking with sincerity, it is nothing compared to senior brother and junior sisters, you chose to ascend to immortal in Northern Plains for the sake of Spirit Affinity House's major task, staying hidden here for hundreds of years, I am truly full of admiration towards you. Prince Feng Xian's expression turned dark, he clenched his fist as he said, it is a pity that someone used our methods before I activated our plans, taking the fruits of our labor. This is definitely the doing of someone in the 10 ancient sects, don't let me find out who it is, otherwise, humph. The truth was, the great Prince Feng Xian, one of the few rank 8 experts in Northern Plains, was actually a spy sent by Spirit Affinity House. Spirit Affinity House made a huge move. In order to set up Prince Feng Xian, Spirit Affinity House undoubtedly gave up a lot of benefits in Central Continent. If Spirit Affinity House had one more rank 8 Gu immortal stationed in Central Continent, they would be able to fight for more benefits when contesting with the other 9 sects. But Spirit Affinity House was the leader of the plan to topple 88 True Yang Building. To complete this plan, they had to send Prince Feng Xian to Northern Plains. In Feng Yuan's previous life, Prince Feng Xian might have made many contributions and provided much help for the Central Continent Gu immortals to destroy 88 True Yang Building. But in this life, Prince Feng Xian had not done anything yet and the plan was already ruined. The culprit of this matter, the immortal zombie Feng Yuan, was already in Xianxia blessed land. He borrowed Mountain Pledge Immortal Gu. Of course, he borrowed it for a fee. Feng Yuan paid Fairy Li Shan 3 immortal essence stones for this. 3 was an extremely good deal due to their relationship, if it were another person, Fairy Li Shan would not casually lend it even if they paid 10 immortal essence stones. Lending immortal Gu carried risk. There was an example right here, Northern Plains Zombie Alliance's leader, Blazing Heaven Demonis, lent Yuan tribe an immortal Gu. Blazing Heaven Demonis was out in Eastern Sea, thus Yuan tribe had been holding on to this immortal Gu, refusing to return it to Zombie Alliance, who had been asking every year. After using Mountain Pledge Gu to make an agreement with Xianxia Land Spirit, more than 10 coffins emerged from the cloud soil with a cry from Xianxia Land Spirit. These coffins were oozing with immortal auras, they were pure white as clouds, on the surface there were clouds forming and breaking down, it was the manifestation of a certain immortal killer move. After opening the coffin, the sleeping Gu immortal could be seen inside. In each coffin, there was a Gu immortal captive. A total of 13 coffins, that was 13 Gu immortals. Even though Feng Yuan was mentally prepared, after seeing this number, he was still shocked. So many captives. Feng Yuan opened his eyes wide, he displayed a somewhat exaggerated expression. Xianxia Land Spirit laughed smugly, he loved to see Feng Yuan shocked, he shook his head as he said, who am I? Think about it. These Gu immortals were simply courting death, they dared to attack my blessed land. Selling them is the punishment they deserve. Feng Yuan looked at Xianxia Land Spirit deeply. On the surface, there were only 12 desolate beasts in Xianxia blessed land. To defend against the 3 waves of attacks from a mysterious force, the group of desolate beasts was insufficient. Xianxia Land Spirit's true methods were likely to be his prized immortal Gu collection. I have some ideas, the number of immortal Gu in Xianxia blessed land definitely exceeds the number of immortal Gu I have. Also, it seems that among his immortal Gu, or among the immortal killer moves that Xianxia Land Spirit owns, at least one of them has the ability to capture Gu immortals. Feng Yuan thought. Such a number of captives was not normal. Most of the Gu immortals who attacked were captured, only a small number died from battle. Fang Yuan looked at the coffins one by one. He saw some familiar faces, like the three Hua High Immortals, Loner Hongyu, and Gui Wang. As for the others, Langya Land Spirit introduced them to him. There was the Metal Path Gu Immortal Tai Jia Zi, Enslavement Path Gu Immortal Great Immortal Xue Xiong, Wood Path Gu Immortal Mu Dian Song, a famous lone cultivator in Northern Plains, Carefree Four Sages, and a Rank 7 Gu Immortal, Wu Hao, known as Rushing Thunderhand. He had Rank 7 middle-tier battle strength. Fang Yuan's horizons were broadened, be it his previous life or this life. This was the first time he had seen so many captives of such strength gathered together. It was as if the Gu Immortals were not worth anything, they were like cabbage sold in the market. Fang Yuan's joy gradually faded, and he showed some worry and solemnness. To be able to gather such power and attack Langya Blessed Land multiple times, this mysterious force hidden behind the scenes made Fang Yuan's heart shudder. The moment I sell them, I will become a thorn in that mysterious force's sight. Fang Yuan touched the coffin as he sighed. But before such huge profits, no matter how strong the mysterious force was, Fang Yuan had decided to do it. He was not someone afraid of trouble, someone afraid to take risks. He was a person in the demonic path, he was a risk-taker. If he chose to not take the risk, that meant that the benefits related to that risk were not enough to move him. Fang Yuan asked Langya Land Spirit, "You had interrogated them intensely, using many methods, did you have no gains from it?" Langya Land Spirit waved his hand, "None. These Gu Immortals were gathered due to various reasons. There were three crucial people who contacted them and organized the attack, while also providing information on Langya Blessed Land. But these three Gu Immortals have already died in battle, even though I controlled my attacks, I could not stop their deaths. After they died, the situation became a little strange, their souls perished completely, I could not even find a fragment of their souls." Towards the end, Langya Land Spirit gradually frowned. Fang Yuan frowned as well, looking at the Gu Immortal captives sleeping in the coffins, he was silent. Chapter 745, Incomplete Immortal Move. Fang Yuan planned to bring all 13 cloud coffins back to Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Because they had made the mountain pledge, not only did Langya Land Spirit not stop him, he even gave Fang Yuan 8 mortal killer moves. These killer moves are the key to unsealing the immortal killer move Sleeping Cloud Coffin. Remember the order that I told you, that is the only way to unlock the coffins, otherwise, it will be destroyed along with the Gu Immortals inside. Before Fang Yuan left, Langya Land Spirit instructed him. Fang Yuan nodded, memorizing all of the mortal killer moves. These mortal killer moves had no names, their only use was to act as the key to opening the coffins. But towards Cloud Path Gu Immortals, it had some reference value. Tai Bai Yunsheng had cultivated Cloud Path on the side, Fang Yuan planned to give these mortal killer moves to Tai Bai Yunsheng for reference. Fang Yuan brought the 13 Gu Immortal captives back to Hu Immortal Blessed Land successfully. He first summoned Hu Immortal Land Spirit and asked for the latest news. Hu Immortal Blessed Land was doing well, Hu Immortal Land Spirit had been steadily doing what Fang Yuan had instructed her. She was progressively selling the rock men in the Blessed Land and buying some fox groups. Hu Immortal herself was an enslavement path Gu Immortal skilled at manipulating fox groups to fight. Her immortal aperture, Hu Immortal Blessed Land, was most suited to raise fox groups. By following this route, eventually, desolate beast-level fox groups would appear, it was a huge benefit. The profit was even higher than 3 transactions of Fang Yuan's Guts Gu. But this method took a long time to see effect, it needed a long, sustained effort. Hu Immortal was a lone cultivator, she was in a terrible state back then, after several earthly calamities, her finances collapsed, her losses could not be recouped and her battle strength fell, eventually dying in the hands of the blue charm lightning shadow. The Gu Immortal's immortal aperture would experience calamities and tribulations at certain intervals. It was like rounds of challenges that strongly limited the number of Gu Immortals in the 5 regions. There was another huge obstacle, that was the limitation of lifespan. Back then, Hu Immortal had Dang Hun Mountain. She wanted to use this unique resource to generate great income for herself. Her method was a wise choice. Even though raising fox groups was in line with the proper management of Hu Immortal Blessed Land, the effect took too long to nurture. The longer it took, the more accidents could occur. Especially when Hu Immortal's circumstances were getting worse by the day, she could not afford to develop slowly. However, she did not have Wisdom Gu. She could not think of a method like using Air Sac Gu. She could only use the Guts Gu to raise the number of rock men and sell the rock men. Fang Yuan had used this method before. There was not much benefit and it was very troublesome. The rockman market was saturated. Why would it be as profitable as directly selling Guts Gu? Eventually, Hu Immortal failed and died in the earthly calamity. The fortune she left behind assisted Fang Yuan. At the crucial moment, it provided him with immeasurable help. Hu Immortal Blessed Land could be said to be Fang Yuan's initial startup fortune, the foundation of his rise. In his past life, Fang Yuan destroyed Hu Immortal Blessed Land in order to kill Feng Jin Huang. In this life, he became the owner of Hu Immortal Blessed Land. This was a wondrous contrast. Right now, since Fang Yuan could sell Guts Gu directly and had enough money, he could start to develop Hu Immortal Blessed Land again, going on the proper path that even the previous owner, Hu Immortal, could not accomplish, slowly accumulating fox groups and raising desolate beast foxes. This business was a long-term plan. Fang Yuan was in no rush, and he was not looking for short-term profits in this aspect either. After looking over the situation of Hu Immortal Blessed Land, Fang Yuan placed his attention on Immortal Crane's sect and Combat Immortal Sect. Hu Immortal Blessed Land was Immortal Crane's sect's subsidiary force in name. He had to pay some attention to Immortal Crane's sect. As for his younger brother, Piu Fangzheng, who was inside Immortal Crane's sect, Fang Yuan had stopped paying attention to him long ago. A mere mortal Gu master, even if he was rank 5, what could he do? Just like back then on Qin Mao Mountain, as long as he did not hinder Fang Yuan's path, he would not even bother to stomp on him. He was too busy. Mortals were like ants, there was no need to waste time and effort to stomp on them. That dear brother of mine is probably dead now. Fang Yuan had a guess. Earlier, Fang Zheng had used Mutual Sense Immortal Gu to connect with Fang Yuan. This allowed Fang Yuan to gain much information, learning about Fang Zheng's predicament and seeing that he was in a blood pool, and the sad sight of demon flowers growing on his body. During this period of time, Immortal Crane's sect's situation was quite calm. They successfully resolved the problem of Great Heavenly Sword Sect. Great Heavenly Sword Sect had a newly emerged third Gu Immortal and was ready to get rid of their status as a subsidiary force of Immortal Crane's sect. Immortal Crane's sect was a righteous sect, even though their strength greatly exceeded Great Heavenly Sword Sect. Because of the rules of the righteous path, they could not attack forcefully. They could only recruit the Gu Immortal in Great Heavenly Sword Sect. Eventually, they succeeded in recruiting a Gu Immortal in Great Heavenly Sword Sect. It was that new third Gu Immortal. Great Heavenly Sword Sect controlled limited resources. It was tough enough to provide for 2 Gu Immortals, a third was too much for them. The newly advanced Gu Immortal was given alluring conditions by Immortal Crane's sect, joining them in the end. Great Heavenly Sword Sect lost the crucial person and their strength fell. They no longer had the foundation to detach from Immortal Crane's sect. They could only sign the subsidiary contract once again. However, even though Immortal Crane's sect stabilized the situation in the northwest area, they were heavily suppressed in the reincarnation battlefield. Lei Tan, who was the Gu Immortal stationed there, was heavily injured. He had no choice but to return to the sect to recuperate. Reincarnation Battlefield was the publicly recognized #1 battlefield killer move in the world. It was set up by Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable himself. The 10 great ancient sects had taken control of this area for many years, engaging in fierce competition. Immortal Crane's sect's attention went back to the reincarnation battlefield again. For the time being, they had no energy to think of new ideas to deal with Hu Immortal Blessed Land. He Feng Yan, who was in charge of taking down Hu Immortal Blessed Land, had been busy recently in trying to find a way to heal his beloved Nine Palace Crane, Little Nine. This was undoubtedly good news to Feng Yuan. He could attend the auction in peace without caring too much about Central Continent. Feng Yuan paid attention to Combat Immortal Sect next. From some unimportant-looking news from Combat Immortal Sect, Feng Yuan sensed something strange. This news could deceive the other 9 great ancient sects for the time being, but to Feng Yuan, who was aware of the inside story, he could tell what was going on. It seems that Combat Immortal Sect has indeed deployed the battle strength of Gu Immortals to attack Starry Sky Grotto Heaven. Feng Yuan thought. L. Audioist Nov. LS on, N. Velby / Co. What he did not know was, after he left, Immortal Monkey King Shirley was trapped inside Starry Sky Grotto Heaven. Combat Immortal Sect sent 3 Gu Immortals to reinforce him, but after they entered Starry Sky Grotto Heaven, they met with some obstacles as well. In this case, the Dream Realm in Starry Sky Grotto Heaven has been exposed to Combat Immortal Sect. The Dream Realm of Star Constellation Immortal Venerable has a connection to the predictions of Great Dream Immortal Venerable. Combat Immortal Sect will definitely attack the Grotto Heaven in secret. I have to make good use of my time. The advantages of my rebirth are shrinking rapidly. Feng Yuan felt a sense of urgency again. Ever since he started selling Daoist Gu and had made contact with all the large and small forces in Central Continent, it had become much easier for him to gather information compared to before. But this information was very general, there were no secrets involved. It could not compare to Fairy Li Shan's intelligence, those that came from Northern Plains. Feng Yuan did not mind this at all. Many Gu Immortals placed importance on collecting information. Every year, they would invest a huge amount of funds to search for critical information or to sustain the avenue of their source of information. But Feng Yuan did not need it. He saved a huge sum from this, because with his rebirth advantage, he had a lot of intelligence about his previous life. Compared to the information that these Gu Immortals obtained through hard work and resources, it was much more comprehensive and important. After confirming the situation around Hu Immortal Blessed Land, Feng Yuan was at ease. He looked at Tai Bai Yunsheng's letter as well as He Lu Lan's situation. Tai Bai Yunsheng was currently exploring Yu Lu Blessed Land with Shark Demon and some others. Immortal Gu landscape as before had completely restored Yu Lu Blessed Land's entrance. It made Tai Bai Yunsheng gain the favor of the others, and he successfully mixed in with the exploration group. As for He Lu Lan, she had recently undergone tribulation. Gu Immortals faced calamities and tribulations once in a while. Rank 6 Gu Immortals faced one earthly calamity every 10 years. 10 years was not in terms of the time of the 5 regions, it was the time in the Gu Immortals' immortal aperture. Because the branch of the river of time was different in every immortal aperture, the time flow was also different when compared to the outside world. He Lu Lan went through immortal ascension with the great strength true martial physique. She obtained a super-grade blessed land. The flow of time in her blessed land was extremely fast, even faster than Tai Bai Yunsheng, who was a time path Gu Immortal. It was at 1:38. That was to say, 1 year in the 5 regions would be 38 years in He Lu Lan's blessed land. During this time, she would need to undergo 3 earthly calamities, with only 2 years left until the 4th. More than half a year had passed in 5 regions' time since the destruction of Imperial Court Blessed Land. He Lu Lan's blessed land had already undergone 2 earthly calamities, this was the 3rd. Each tribulation was a trial, but He Lu Lan had Fairy Li Shan's help, and with several immortal Gu in her possession, if she met with any real difficulties, she could ask Feng Yuan for help. No news from her currently meant good news. After confirming the situation of the people around him, Fang Yuan had no more reservations, he fully committed to his plans. He calculated, only half a month was left until the auction. In Hu Immortal Blessed Land, because the flow of time was 5 times as fast, that was approximately slightly less than 2.5 months. The transaction of Daoist Gu had to continue. At the same time, Fang Yuan planned to use the light of wisdom to try to follow up on that burst of inspiration that had emerged earlier. Time passed quickly, 2 months went by in Hu Immortal Blessed Land's time. Fang Yuan came out from the underground cave with a satisfied look. He had made great achievements in using the light of wisdom for deductions this time. He successfully fused the details of poison breath and harboring malicious heart to form a new, incomplete immortal move. Fang Yuan named it Poison Spit. Using Immortal Gu Woman's heart as the core, it was called Immortal, but this was not complete yet, because each time it was activated, large amounts of poison would remain in the body, causing backlashes due to the toxicity. Thus, this was only an incomplete move. With my immortal zombie body, I can activate Poison Spit 3 times. More than that, and the remaining poison would be able to kill even my soul. The 2 killer moves are the crystallization of my wisdom path and poison path attainment. It is a solid foundation. With the unlimited inspiration brought about by the light of wisdom, I could use this foundation to create something new. Fang Yuan had already used the light of wisdom many times. The more he used it, the more he felt the benefits and convenience of the light of wisdom. He could tell that Wisdom Gu had immense value and an even more incredible effect. Chapter 746, Joyful News, A Way to Escape the Zombie Body. A few days later, Tai Bai Yunxing returned to Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Fang Yuan met with him and saw the joy in his eyes, saying, "Old Bai, it seems that you have obtained something great in this journey to Eastern Sea." Tai Bai Yunxing laughed heartily. "Junior brother is sharp as ever, that is right. Guess what gains I made this time?" Fang Yuan said in curiosity. Fairy Yu Lu was a female attendant of Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable. She cultivated Earth Path and Water Path. She was skilled in defense and healing. I know about the group that you went with to attack the Blessed Land. Did you unexpectedly succeed in one try, and manage to take down Yu Lu Blessed Land? In truth, Fang Yuan did not think well of the prospects of Tai Bai Yunxing's trip. Tai Bai Yunxing's expression turned stiff. He sighed. "So junior brother did not expect us to succeed, you were right after all. In this attempt, we attacked the Blessed Land for 7 days and 7 nights, but we were defeated by the land spirit and suffered huge losses. A Gu immortal nearly died, but I used man as before Immortal Gu to save this person." "Oh." Fang Yuan raised his eyebrows. He knew about the value of man as before Immortal Gu. Once Tai Bai Yunxing exposed this Gu, his value would greatly rise among this group of people. As expected, Tai Bai Yunxing continued, "After my man as before Immortal Gu was exposed, I gained a lot of attention and respect. Next, Shark Demon invited me enthusiastically to go to Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance as a guest. Why would I dare to go to other people's base all alone? Thus, I rejected him. In the end, Shark Demon and 2 other immortal zombies hosted me in Hai Shi Blessed Land, and during the banquet I heard an important piece of news." Saying so, Tai Bai Yunxing paused, halting his words as he looked at Fang Yuan with shining eyes. Fang Yuan laughed mentally. He followed his intention and asked, He, what important news is it? For you to leave me hanging like this?" Tai Bai Yunxing's expression was solemn. He said, "It is a method that can revive you, junior brother. It is a method to break free of your immortal zombie body." "Oh." Fang Yuan's eyebrows rose. He had made no progress after joining Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. To think that Tai Bai Yunxing would make more progress before Fang Yuan even gained anything. "What method is it?" Fang Yuan asked. Tai Bai Yunxing said, "Shark Demon has a wife called Su Bai Man. She is also an immortal zombie. A long time ago, she obtained a time path immortal Gu from an opportunity after defeating strong foes. Its name is Time Anchor. This Gu can leave a mark in the river of time, even though that is useless on its own. When paired with other time path immortal Gu, the effect is incredible. Fang Yuan heard this and understood what Tai Bai Yun Sheng was going to say. His eyes shined, but they quickly dimmed. Old Bai, I understand what you mean. I've heard of Time Anchor Immortal Gu long ago. If paired with your landscape as before, it can indeed make a mountain or river be restored to a certain period in time. If used with man as before, it can theoretically send a target back to their body condition at a certain time period as well. But the requirement for this is, Time Anchor Immortal Gu has to leave a marking in advance. That is correct, my man. As before, Immortal Gu can only go back by an instant in time, but with Time Anchor Immortal Gu, we can exceed that limit of a single instant. Junior brother, with this method, you might be able to get rid of your immortal zombie status. Tai Bai Yun Sheng was excited. Tai Bai Yun Sheng's words were not wrong. Gu are the essence of heaven and earth, they each have one effect, all being different. Immortal Gu are unique, although they are powerful, they have weaknesses and limitations. Man is the spirit of all beings, they were most skilled in wisdom and creation. Using a combination of different Gu worms, they could raise the overall effect and make up for the respective Gu's weaknesses. With Time Anchor Immortal Gu's assistance, man as before Immortal Gu can break free of the single instant limitation, but Fang Yuan shook his head, continuing, the coordinated usage of two Immortal Gu is not as simple as just using them, many Immortal Gu are needed at the same time. In fact, other Immortal Gu might also be needed, in order to form an immortal killer move. Time Anchor and man as before can indeed coordinate theoretically. But you do not have a corresponding immortal killer move. I think Shark Demon is providing you such hospitality because he wants you to help them, to contribute man as before so that they can research the immortal killer move, right? Tai Bai Yun Sheng nodded continuously, praising, Junior brother is smart, you guessed accurately, that was indeed the case. It is a pity, it is a pity. Fang Yuan shook his head again. A pity what? I think this method has high hopes. Tai Bai Yun Sheng looked at Fang Yuan uncertainly. Old Bai, you should know, the fact that I have become an immortal zombie has long since been set in stone. Maybe Shark Demon and others had used Time Anchor Immortal Gu before becoming immortal zombies, and left a marking in the river of time, but I did not. Thus, even if you research this killer move successfully, it is useless for me. Fang Yuan sighed. Tai Bai Yun Sheng laughed, Junior brother, your concern is right. But I have good news for you, that is, Su Bai Man and Shark Demon had not used Time Anchor Immortal Gu to leave a marking. Oh. Back then, Su Bai Man forced back her enemies and obtained Time Anchor Immortal Gu, but she did not know its usage. Su Bai Man was heavily injured at that time, she had no choice but to become an immortal zombie. After Shark Demon learned about this, in order to accompany his wife, he became an immortal zombie even though he had ample lifespan. Years after the two became immortal zombies, they finally learned about the origin and usage of Time Anchor Immortal Gu. So that's it. Fang Yuan's expression changed. Getting a mysterious immortal Gu and spending a few years or even over 10 years to learn about the origin and use of it, this was quite common. Previously in Imperial Court Blessed Land, Fang Yuan obtained many immortal Gu as well, but he did not dare to test them recklessly. Thankfully, there was Langya Land Spirit to clear up the information regarding those Gu. Tai Bai Yun Sheng continued, when they found out about the use of Time Anchor Gu, they were in deep regret, but it was too late. I had the same concerns as you, Junior brother, and asked them during the banquet. Shark Demon and the other immortal zombies mentioned another method, that was Spring-Autumn Cicada. Oh. Fang Yuan had a curious but suspicious expression. Spring-Autumn Cicada is that mystical Gu. Legends say that it can travel up the river of time, and return to the past. But that has never been confirmed. Tai Bai Yunxing did not suspect anything. Spring-autumn cicada is not reliable. Mentioning spring-autumn cicada was only as an example. Shark Demon was trying to say that even though they missed the timing to use Time Anchor Immortal Gu, if they could use Immortal Gu like spring-autumn cicada, they could bring the Gu Immortal in front of the river of time. By then, using Time Anchor Immortal Gu to leave a marking upstream, one could use Man as before Immortal Gu successfully. I think that this method has a high chance of success. Fang Yuan shut his eyes slightly, he fell into deep thought and did not speak. What Tai Bai Yunxing did not know was, Fang Yuan in front of him was the owner of Spring-Autumn Cicada. Be it Shark Demon or Tai Bai Yunxing, they were not familiar with Spring-Autumn Cicada, they only knew about it from rumors. Fang Yuan thought, if I could directly use Spring-Autumn Cicada, I would have used it. Why would I need to use an additional step with Time Anchor Immortal Gu? But this method, in theory, is possible. Fang Yuan had an agreement with Wisdom Gu, in a way, he controlled Wisdom Gu. He could rise up quickly despite being an immortal zombie, charge forward in over half a year, rapidly changing his situation and finances. Half of the reason was due to Wisdom Gu. L. Daoist Nov. LS on, N. Velby / Co. If Fang Yuan wanted to use Spring-Autumn Cicada to be reborn and get rid of the immortal zombie trouble, he would have used it long ago. That is, leaving aside for now the failure chance of Spring-Autumn Cicada. But during the Northern Plains journey, Fang Yuan was too weak. Even if he was reborn and did it again, there were too many variables. Fang Yuan did not even have a 5% confidence of getting greater benefits from it. The agreement with Wisdom Gu was truly due to the perfect time and place, that moment was simply too unique. The rank 9 Wisdom Gu was Fang Yuan's greatest profit. If he did not obtain Wisdom Gu, there would be no better benefits in comparison. Other than Spring-Autumn Cicada, there are other Time Path Immortal Gu. Like Looking Back Immortal Gu and Vivid Recollection Immortal Gu, they can allow a Gu Immortal to stand in the present and observe the past, except that the two have differences. Using Looking Back in the area of the old Earth would allow one to see the former glorious scenery. Using Vivid Recollection Immortal Gu would allow one to inspect their own past. By refining the two Immortal Gu together, one could obtain the rank 8 Immortal Gu Extreme Past. The Gu Immortals can be drawn out and observe all that has happened in the past through the river of time. Fang Yuan deduced in his mind, if I had the Time Path Investigative Immortal Gu Extreme Past, using it with the Time Anchor Immortal Gu, I might be able to form a Time Path Immortal Killer move, standing in the present and marking the past. Next, I can use Man as before Immortal Gu to return to my human body and restore my living state, without losing Wisdom Gu. Of course, Extreme Past Immortal Gu is just an example. There might be other Time Path Immortal Gu that are more compatible with Time Anchor. Fang Yuan thought over it before opening his eyes. Old Bai, thank you. He thanked Tai Bai Yunxing sincerely. Although this method is innovative, it would expend a lot of time, effort, and resources. It is at least a 100-year project. But it is a form of hope at least. We are like family, there is not need to say thanks. Tai Bai Yunxing responded immediately. However, old Tai Bai understood what Fang Yuan was saying. He sighed as he continued, exactly, it is at least some hope. Even though it will take a long time, during this period, junior brother, you can use the Black Oil and Zombie Alliance to slow the destruction of your blessed land. Even though Black Oil is hard to get, with my cooperative relationship with Shark Demon, I will be able to get enough. Fang Yuan laughed. During the period when you were gone, I had already used a fake identity, called Sha Huang, and made my way into Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. So junior brother had such a plan. Fang Yuan continued, I want to attend the auction in Northern Plains, come along with me. This is the Mortal Killer move Unfamiliar Face, it came from Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable. I have a few Cloud Path Killer moves, you can take a look, aren't you cultivating Cloud Path now as well? Tai Bai Yunsheng received these killer move as a warm feeling emerged in his heart. When I was thinking about my junior brother's problems, he was also looking out for my benefits. Fong Yuan showed him the Gu immortal captives and the deal he had with Langya land spirit. Tai Bai Yunsheng was shocked. He said with worry and excitement, "It seems that this auction will be a great show. I will go with you. It would be best if He Lulan and Fairy Li Shan also are there." "They will definitely go. But although our alliance was exposed to He Cheng, now is not the time to openly travel with them," Fong Yuan said. "Junior brother makes sense." Tai Bai Yunsheng nodded. Chapter 747, Auction, 1. The mountain stood high above the clouds. On the peak, there was a mirror-like pond, reflecting the traces of clouds in the sky. This was Zhenwu Blessed Land, the headquarters of Northern Plains Yuan tribe. The surname Yuan was not rare, it was very ordinary. In southern border, eastern sea, western desert, it existed in all 5 regions. But in Northern Plains, the surname Yuan was much more significant. It represented a super force, a supreme authority. In the sky above the water, a white-robed old man was waving his spear. His aura was grand as he whipped up wind currents that moved the clouds. The old man was white-haired but greatly spirited. His body was moving around, sometimes fast as lightning, sometimes slow like a rock. With the spear in his hand, he extended it like a dragon's movement. It was very surreal. But regardless of how much commotion he caused, the lake on this mountain peak did not even have any ripples. It was calm like a mirror. The lake water had much life. The seaweed was moving without any currents in it. A large group of carps watched the white-robed old man wave his spear under the water. They were opening their mouths continuously as they spoke one by one. "Old man Yuan, you danced pretty well, it was a good sight. These spear skills are not bad, you had a trace of Daoist spear's shadow. The spear was swept too greatly though, the angle was a little off." Hearing the carp's words, the old man stopped his movements, landing beside the pond. The long spear in his hands was still giving off a bright white light. It turned into a gu and went into his robe. Next, he paid respects to the carp in the pond as he inquired, "May I ask, the horizontal sweep earlier, why was the angle off?" "You used too much strength. Too brutish, you lost your grace." "Old man, you are too old and yet feisty, you should eat some seaweed to lower it." The carp spoke incessantly, criticizing with no restraint. These carps were not ordinary, their skin was white as snow, while their scales were black like ink. The black and white formed a clear contrast, there was no other color. People called them true martial carp. They were born from heaven and earth, each of them was a mutated beast king. The old man thought about it before raising his finger, using his arm instead of a spear, and practicing his moves. "Is this okay?" "No. Wrong. Old man, you are so stupid." The carp spoke one after another, scolding the old man. At this time, a Yuan tribe Gu immortal, Yuan Qi, came running. Hearing the true martial carp's criticism, he did not feel anything strange. He paid respects to the old man as he said dutifully, "Greetings to First Supreme Elder." The white-robed old man was Yuan tribe's first Supreme Elder, having rank 7 cultivation level with peak battle strength. Seeing someone come, he frowned unhappily. "Junior Yuan Qi, why are you here? Didn't I say that when I am practicing my martial arts, I do not want anyone to disturb me?" "Lord, you instructed me earlier, so I am here to remind you not to miss the auction." Yuan Qi was extremely respectful. "Oh. There was such a thing, I nearly forgot, that means the auction is happening soon." Yuan tribe's first Supreme Elder patted his forehead. Yuan Qi laughed bitterly, "Lord, today is the day of the auction." "Ah. Time flies so quickly. Lad, thank you for reminding me. When I return, I will reward you. Off I go." Saying so, Yuan tribe first Supreme Elder waved his sleeves and an immortal Gu flew out of the pond. This Gu was called human language, it could turn the words of beasts into human words. Human language immortal Gu left, and the discussions of the true martial carps came to an end. One could only hear the slight bubbling when they opened their mouths. Yuan tribe first elder collected the human language immortal Gu and flew away, turning into light. The carp group swam around one another. After some discussion, they felt bored and swam away. Yuan Qi looked at First Elder's figure as he vanished into the horizon. First Elder is still the same. He sighed, waving his sleeves at the pond. Winds blew and clouds moved, a thick white cloud covered and concealed this important place in Yuan tribe's territory. Magnolia Pulp Boat returns to the homeland of the lotus flower, singing in the hall lasts till late into the night. The lake reflects the willows surrounded by light fog, mountains far away resemble the contours of a beard that curls beautifully like a yellow moon. A scholar moved his head around as he held his scroll, sitting in a pavilion with lotus flowers in the water, he recited in this calm night, as wind blew and a fragrance spread. A female attendant was beside the scholar. Her facial features were picturesque, her skin was white like snow, she was holding a small vessel as she poured wine into the wine cup. After the scholar finished reciting his poem, he held his scroll as he looked at it while grabbing the wine cup on the table. He drank the wine without even looking at it. After gulping it down, he said, "Although the wine is good, there is not much left. During this auction, we should request for a few more jars from that person. Hong Xiu, you will go with me on this trip, let Tian Xiang stay here and guard the blessed land." "Yes, young master." The female attendant was overjoyed as she replied quickly. Ding ding ding. Immortal Gu heavenly gong sound resonated in the mind of Gu immortal He Lang Zi. He sat on the ground, opening his eyes as blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. This immortal Gu heavenly gong is very powerful. I had only activated 5% of its power, but my 5 intestines shifted and my blood flowed backwards, even though I had also been activating a top-tier defensive mortal killer move. He Lang Zi laughed sinisterly, his blood flow went back to normal, in a few breaths of time, it was like he had never been injured. Such power, I do not need to worry about the immortal Gu not being traded by anyone. He stood up and flew towards Crimson Reed Marsh. This is Crimson Reed Marsh. The scenery is great here. A rank 8 Gu immortal wearing a tall hat and with a common face was looking down at the Crimson Reed Marsh below him. But all he saw were reeds growing, with water pathways that were complex and interweaved, resembling a maze. What was most eye-catching here were not the water ducks, the gulls, or the fish, it was the crimson red reed. Countless reeds surfaced from the water vigorously, seemingly carrying grandness and boldness, they were imposing and expanded without restraint, with the attitude of a king, they subdued all of the living beings here and took them for themselves. The rank 8 Gu immortal observed before saying with some amazement, "This scenery has both delicateness and grandness, the outstanding nature is hidden deeply." Based on such a sight, this Qin Bai Sheng clearly is a meticulous person despite his grandness, he is unrestrained but also has a scheming mind. No wonder he could cause such a commotion and hold this grand auction. Esteemed guest has brilliant judgment. A rank 7 Gu immortal beside him nodded in agreement. Qin Bai Sheng's actions were truly the source of a huge commotion, it was a great method to protect himself. I, Murong Jin Xiao, admire his actions greatly. I am looking forward to it, this auction that involves almost all of Northern Plains heroes. The rank 8 Gu immortal greeted as the esteemed guest retracted his gaze, his tone becoming excited. Haha, Eastern Sea is rich in resources, countless heroes emerge from there. Esteemed guest is an overlord of a region, controlling the entire Glass Sea, although Northern Plains has many talents, there are few that are worthy of receiving your compliment. Murong Jin Xiao said respectfully. Find new Tories on nov/el-bin.com. From his words, it seemed that this mysterious guest was not a Northern Plains Gu immortal, he came from Eastern Sea. Brother Qin, we meet again. Fang Yuan cupped his fists, greeting Qin Bai Sheng. Ha ha ha, Brother Sha, I have been waiting for you. But I did not expect you to come directly from Fairy Li Shan's side. Qin Bai Sheng was very enthusiastic, he grabbed Fang Yuan's arms, like he really regarded him as a brother. Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunsheng went together. They did not travel in northern plains, instead, they entered Fairy Li Shan's blessed land and used whole Earth Gu to reach Bai Sheng blessed land. With their earlier agreement and the mountain pledge Gu, Fairy Li Shan's and Qin Bai Sheng's blessed lands had been set up with a pair of whole Earth Gu, allowing them to connect. Fang Yuan brought the 13 sleeping cloud coffins and arrived in the blessed land through this path, meeting Qin Bai Sheng once again. There's no choice. I have such valuable treasures with me, with my low cultivation level, I can only come here through this method to reduce the risk. Fang Yuan purposely laughed bitterly. Don't be humble, brother, you are so well hidden, your depth is unfathomable. With just you and Fairy Li Shan's relationship, who would dare to target you? Qin Bai Sheng said respectfully. No matter how good you are, there is always someone better than you. But if I have brother's battle strength, I would have no fear. Fang Yuan quickly replied, in terms of interpersonal skills, he was not inferior to Qin Bai Sheng. I wonder who this is. Qin Bai Sheng turned around, looking at Tai Bai Yunsheng who was next to Fang Yuan. Right now, Tai Bai Yunsheng had used unfamiliar face and turned into an ordinary old man, his appearance was very different from before. This is my good friend, Gu Immortal Bai Sheng. Fang Yuan introduced fearlessly. Bai Sheng, forgive my ignorance, I did not know that a person of your caliber was hidden in our northern plains. Qin Bai Sheng took the initiative to greet. No, no, I am flattered. Tai Bai Yunsheng quickly responded. Qin Bai Sheng brought Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunsheng to the auction hall. For this auction, I purposely altered my blessed land to form this huge auction hall. Qin Bai Sheng introduced. It is quite extraordinary, there is a very magnificent aura, as expected of Brother Qin's setup. Fang Yuan smiled as he praised. Qin Bai Sheng showed a hint of worry and doubt, saying, I have no choice, many huge forces and countless experts in northern plains were all invited to this auction. As the person in charge, if the auction is too run down, I will be offending them. Honestly speaking, there had been a huge pressure on me these recent days, I could barely sleep. Thankfully, with Brother Sha, the blessed lands will definitely be a popular item when up for auction, I can't wait to see that commotion. I wonder if you have many. Fang Yuan did not say a number, only smiling as he said, Brother Qin, you can be at ease about it, no need to worry. Of course I'm not worried. Qin Bai Sheng's gaze flashed, since he could not probe the answer, he changed the topic, in this auction, I have the main hall, single rooms, and secret rooms. The main hall can allow free interaction, the single rooms are for those Gu immortals with strange temperaments or who enjoy being alone. The secret rooms will hide everything about the Gu immortal's identity. These three arrangements have been written in the Alliance content long ago, Brother Sha does not need to worry that I have done some tricks behind the scenes. I wonder which location Brother Sha would choose. These three locations, can they be swapped at will during the process of the auction? Fang Yuan asked first. Of course. But if a secret room is already occupied, unless the owner agrees, nobody can get in. Qin Bai Sheng answered. Then I will choose a secret room. Fang Yuan said. I will choose a secret room too. Tai Bai Yunsheng followed behind. Qin Bai Sheng nodded, the first 9 secret rooms have been booked already. I'll give you the 10th and 11th rooms respectively, how about that? Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunsheng had no reason to say no. After they entered their secret rooms, Bai Sheng blessed land opened its entrance and invited many Gu immortals in. Chapter 748, Auction, 2. In the secret room, Fang Yuan was playing with the Gu worms in his hands. These mortal Gu were owned by Qin Baisheng, but currently they were lended to the secret room's owner, thus Fang Yuan could activate them. He activated his primeval essence and tried to inject it, as the environment in the secret room changed at once. It seems that Qin Baisheng really put in some effort. Even though it is a secret room, it is like a small world in here, it is larger than a garden. These mortal Gu can be used to change the environment, it can become a mountainous or river-like area, or even become an ocean or lake, a pavilion or a terrace. As Fang Yuan continued to use the Gu, the environment in the secret room continued to change. At times, it was a lush mountain and he was at the peak of the mountain in a pavilion. At times, there were huge rivers and he was in a boat docked at the side of the river. Of course, these changes were just illusions, they were not real. If they were real, such terrain-changing abilities would definitely come from immortal Gu, he would need to spend a lot of immortal essence. Fang Yuan retrieved the Gu worms and browsed one with his mind. This east window Gu had many of the auction items listed in it, they were all precious treasures. Fang Yuan was dazed upon seeing the huge catalogue. Some of the auction items had the conditions written in the description, other than using immortal essence stones to bid for them, one could also trade for them using resources. Evidently, these resources were what the owner of the auction item were looking for. Fang Yuan swept through the content of the list and focused on the latter portion. This portion's information listed a variety of immortal Gu, they had all sorts of effects and were from all kinds of different paths. The information on how to trade these Gu were all written on the back. Unlike the previous content, immortal Gu were unique, they could not be bought using immortal essence stones. This rule was practically set in stone, even during the 5 regions chaotic war it was still in place. Thus, to buy an immortal Gu, one needed to use another immortal Gu as the price. Fang Yuan's focused his mind and quickly saw that his immortal Gu were also listed there. There were 4 immortal Gu, Rising Azure Cloud, Worldly Wave Trace, Calamity Beckoning, and Delight in Water and Mountain. The former 2 were Movement Immortal Gu, one was Cloud Path and the other was Water Path, they were incompatible with Fang Yuan's Strength Path. Although Tai Bai Yun Xing cultivated Cloud Path as well, he was a Time Path Gu Immortal, Rising Azure Cloud was also not suitable for him. As for Calamity Beckoning Immortal Gu, it was rank 7, but the effect could be said to be harming oneself, it was practically a luck path suicidal weapon. Even though Fang Yuan had conceived some uses for it, if he could exchange it for other immortal Gu, that would be more worthwhile. The final one was Delight in Water and Mountain Immortal Gu, it could produce huge amounts of joyful will. But Fang Yuan was already prepared to mass-produce Malicious Thought Gu, in that case, it could replace the use of joyful will. He might as well put it up for auction and see what immortal Gu he can get from it. If there is no suitable trade, he could just take it back. After the 4 immortal Gu, Fang Yuan naturally listed the conditions for exchanging them. What was worth mentioning was that these 4 immortal Gu were all put up using Fairy Li Shan's channel, he was not associated with them. Even though Calamity Beckoning Immortal Gu was quite troublesome to sell and might even attract trouble, if it could be traded for a useful immortal Gu, the benefits exceeded the cost. If he missed this golden opportunity, he might not have an equivalent one for several hundred years, until the 5 regions chaotic war. Fang Yuan was a vigilant person, but he was also resolute, when he needed to take risks, he would not cower in fear and doubt. Other than these 4 immortal Gu, I still have Spring Autumn Cicada, Cleanse Soul, Connect Luck, Woman's Heart, and in a way Wisdom Gu. Fang Yuan counted, he needed these remaining 5 immortal Gu, he would not put them up at the auction, or even give any chances of exposing them if possible. Spring-Autumn Cicada's actual effect would only be known by the user, even though there was a chance of failure, Fang Yuan obtained a lot of benefit from it and gained much experience, he could not do without it. Even with Wisdom Gu in Hu Immortal Blessed Land, Spring-Autumn Cicada was still his biggest trump card. All West ch. Point. rs on n.o/v. l. I/n/. m. Fang Yuan had already decided that spring-autumn cicada would remain as his vital gu in his first aperture. In the future, if he had a chance, he would choose time path in undergoing immortal ascension. Cleanse Soul Immortal Gu was the core of the immortal killer move Myriad Self. Although it was hungry and could not be used, he would not sell it. Connect Luck Immortal Gu could make up for Spring-Autumn Cicada's weakness. Fang Yuan had already experienced the power of Luck Path, he would not let go of this Immortal Gu. Wisdom Gu was out of the question. If he took it out, it would cause a huge commotion and make countless people go after his life. As for Woman's Heart Immortal Gu, it was originally something Fang Yuan wanted to get rid of. But due to a coincidence, Fang Yuan deduced the Poison Spit Killer move. This Woman's Heart Immortal Gu was its core, and was now placed at the right part of Fang Yuan's chest. It was like a heart, beating continuously. It was small like a baby's fist, it looked purple-black and was surrounded in poisonous energy. It was already connected to Fang Yuan's bloodstream. Every time he breathed, the zombie blood would flow slowly, carrying the poison and circulating in Fang Yuan's body. From this point, one could see traces of the Wisdom Path Killer move, harboring malicious heart. But the mortal Gu assisting Woman's heart were like a Gu formation for reverse refinement. Through reverse refinement, they were extracting Woman's heart strength. This was due to Immortal Gu Woman's heart's special property, refinement and nurturing in one. This Gu needed the hearts of women to feed it. After it is full, the more it is fed, the stronger the poison. Right now, Fang Yuan was using a reverse refinement process to draw out that poison. Man is the spirit of all living beings. Although Woman's heart is a consumable immortal Gu, and would be expended in one use normally, through his own method, and combining it with other Gu worms, it could be used repeatedly by extracting its power slowly and continuously. Poison Spit is only an incomplete immortal move, it needs to be improved later. With Wisdom Gu, it should not be a problem. Fang Yuan gathered his thoughts as he put down the East Window Gu, he willed and the view in front of him became clear. Fang Yuan could see the auction hall. The auction was split into the main hall, single rooms, and secret rooms. Fang Yuan could not see the latter two, he could only see the main hall. Right now, on the seats in the main hall were more than 20 Gu immortals, they were talking openly without fear of eavesdroppers. Old Lu, it has been a while, I trust that you have been well. Oh, Xianxia, you have gone through the second heavenly tribulation already, right? I am ashamed, my foundation is too weak, I was scared and have placed my blessed land in the outside world of Northern Plains these recent years. After spending a lot of resources and borrowing a time path immortal Gu, I have slowed the flow of time in my blessed land. Right now, I still have one heavenly tribulation cultivation. The earthly calamities are hard to survive, the heavenly tribulations are even harder obstacles. You are very stable and careful, not taking huge risks, this is a very safe method. Shi Yuyan, you are here too. Your words are too funny. If you, Wu Rong, can come, why can't I? Humph. The grudge of you snatching my Gu back then, I will take revenge. Just you wait. He, I know this immortal Gu is suitable for your use, but I am going to auction it, let's see if you have the ability to bid for it. Some Gu immortals were catching up on old times, some were building relationships, but there were others with great animosity, they were like barrels of gunpowder. At this moment, a white-robed old man walked into the main hall. There are quite a number of people. The white-robed old man was Yuan tribe's first supreme elder, he looked around and laughed heartily. His laughter soon attracted the attention of the people in the hall, as talks became softer. Fang Yuan directed his gaze as well, this first supreme elder of Yuan tribe was a rank 7 Gu immortal, the leader of the super force, Yuan tribe, of Northern Plains, he had exemplary battle strength and financial power, he was a strong contender in this auction. Qin Baisheng was standing at the entrance inviting guests inside. He went up and paid his respects. It is truly my Baisheng blessed land's great fortune that Lord Yuan is here to grace our auction with his presence. Don't call me Lord, call me by my name, Yuan Rangzun. Yuan tribe's first supreme elder saw Qin Baisheng and his eyes shined. He patted Qin Baisheng's back with much enthusiasm. Long ago, he had fought with Qin Baisheng, the latter's strength had gained his acknowledgement. But, I had some gains after practicing my spear skills recently, is there any time we can spar once again? Yuan Rangzun's changed the topic and he showed his true nature as a martial arts fanatic. Senior Yuan's Dao Mark spear arts are still vivid in my memories. I wonder if Senior Yuan would like to sit in the main hall, or get a single room or a secret room. Qin Baisheng laughed, he did not reply to the invitation. Give me a single room. Yuan Rangzun knew that now was not the time for this, he thought about it and gave his response. Just as Yuan Rangzun stepped into his single room, a handsome scholar walked into the auction with a female Gu immortal following behind him. Unfettered scholar came too. The gazes of the Gu immortals in the main hall were attracted again. I had heard that unfettered scholar has great luck with women, having 2 Gu immortal attendants, named Xianxia and Xianxia. I wonder who came with him. Many male Gu immortals turned around to look at the female Gu immortal. She wears a red dress that looks like fire, it should be Fairy Xianxia. If it was Fairy Tianxiang, who was born with a certain fragrance, the main hall would have already been filled with fragrance if she was here. A certain Gu immortal who knew a lot about them said with much enthusiasm. Fang Yuan's mind rapidly went through the information. This unfettered scholar was a lone cultivator, he had quite a few obstacles in life. His ancestors were not from northern plains, he came from a clan in Central Continent that had gone downhill. Central Continent was full of sects, it was tough for clans to survive. If they could, they would cross the regional walls and live in the other 4 regions. Alone in another region, Unfettered Scholar's clan was ostracized and lost a lot of their strength, they were barely surviving in northern plains, their situation was turning worse. After several generations, they had finally mixed into northern plains, but at that time, they were on their deathbed, like a dying old man. By Unfettered Scholar's generation, the clan had already been thoroughly destroyed. Unfettered Scholar brought along his 2 attendants and they escaped for their lives, living a tough life. In their most difficult moments, even though they were in danger of dying, Unfettered Scholar had never abandoned his 2 attendants. Eventually, he obtained an opportunity and became a Gu immortal. After becoming an immortal, he spent a lot of money and effort to make his attendants immortals as well. This was quite a story in Northern Plains Gu immortal world. Be it Yuan Rangzun, Unfettered Scholar, or the other Gu immortals, they each had their own exciting stories, they were the main characters of their own legendary tales. Gu masters who were able to become immortals naturally were exemplary characters. Before this auction had even begun, before all of the Gu immortals had entered, brilliant heroes and geniuses had already appeared like shining stars in the sky. Chapter 749, Auction, 3. Brother Qin, go ahead with your work, we can choose a room for ourselves. Unfettered Scholar waved to Qin Baisheng as he spoke in a tone that revealed his close relationship with Qin Baisheng. Next, Unfettered Scholar walked away slowly, into a room with Fairy Xianxia. After he left, more Gu immortals arrived, some chose single rooms, but most chose the main hall. As for those who chose the secret rooms, they entered through secret channels, into their respective rooms. This could not be seen from the main hall. The most up-to-date. N. Vels are published on n0velbj.co/m. Although Qin Baisheng is a lone cultivator, he has great strength and yet shows great respect for people, he has a wide network and relationships with many experts. Tai Bai Yunxing transmitted from the 11th secret room. This was the first time he had met Qin Baisheng, yet he had a high evaluation of the man. Fang Yuan looked at the hall as he analyzed. It is not entirely Qin Baisheng's credit. Earlier, when 88 Truyang building collapsed, Northern Plains Gu immortals obtained many immortal Gu, they need to trade them and satisfy their own requirements. There is also the essence of the luck path true inheritance. In addition, with Imperial Court Blessed Land's destruction, Northern Plains' situation has rapidly changed, all the super forces need to establish new rules. Because of this specific timing and situation, the auction could become so huge. Qin Baisheng and Fairy Li Shan were able to invite rank 8 Gu immortals not only as a result of their own reputations. As time passed, more and more Gu immortals arrived. In the hall, Gu immortals were talking and created lots of noise. Although Gu immortals were powerful and had unlimited primeval essence, capable of crushing mortals, they were busy with managing their immortal apertures and had to make lots of preparations for the calamities and tribulations. They had very limited time. Furthermore, the world was huge and Gu immortals were small in numbers, it was rare for them to interact with each other. Especially an opportunity like this which gathered so many Gu immortals, it was very rare. Gu immortals needed to interact, they placed great emphasis on their social network. Immortal Gu were unique. Often, Gu immortals needed to borrow immortal Gu to settle their problems. Furthermore, the economy of this world was not developed, many precious resources could not be bought using immortal essence stones, they could only be traded with rare goods at times. This auction gathered almost all of the Gu immortals in Northern Plains. Such an opportunity to interact was extremely rare. In the main hall, Gu immortals talked and exchanged information. Even several enemies had their grudges temporarily mediated and resolved. Gu immortals were so rare, their social network was only so big. If one was not a friend, they would be an enemy, even if they were a stranger, they would still be connected somehow in this social network as long as they talked about their friends. After Unfettered Scholar, an old man carrying a walking cane walked into the auction hall slowly. Qin Baisheng saw this and his expression brightened, he quickly walked forward and paid respects. Qin Baisheng pays respects to Lord Yao Huang. Yao Huang, one of the 5 rank 8 Gu immortals in Northern Plains. The hall was silent, many Gu immortals could not sit any longer, they stood up and greeted. Lord Yao Huang, you are my benefactor, please accept my respects. If not for Lord Yao Huang, I would still be injured now. Lord Yao Huang, do you remember me? I am Xianxia, who searched for the bean sprout worm for you back then. Even the Gu immortals who were in the single rooms walked out and greeted Yao Huang. Hello everyone, good day, good day. Yao Huang had an amicable expression as he nodded, he did not put on airs and was not acting arrogantly. Like Tai Bai Yunsheng, Yao Huang was a healing Gu immortal and was famous in the righteous path. He had a pure Huang gene bloodline, being the first supreme elder of the super force, Yao tribe. He had a lofty reputation in Northern Plains, it could be said to be the highest of the 5 rank 8 Gu immortals of Northern Plains. Stories regarding Yao Huang was numerous, they would take more than 3 days and 3 nights to read. The following story was closely connected to Fang Yuan, it happened decades ago. Yao Huang created a new healing immortal Gu. For the last 100 years, he had been asking for immortal zombies in Zombie Alliance to do experiments on them. As his research got deeper, Yao Huang had some results and actually managed to turn himself into an immortal zombie. Many Gu immortal experts were unable to learn about the truth. They were deceived and thought that Yao Huang's lifespan was almost used up, forcing him to become an immortal zombie. Yao Huang thus proclaimed that he wanted to join Zombie Alliance. At the same time, Zombie Alliance's leader, Blazing Heaven Demonis, already had left and entered Eastern Sea. Without the leader, Zombie Alliance only had Yin Lu Gong and the other 2 rank 7s to guard the headquarters. No one in Zombie Alliance could expose Yao Huang's methods, but at the final moment, he lost to the entrance of the discussion hall. No matter how Yao Huang pushed it, he could not open the door. This made the immortal zombies only able to look at each other in dismay. Eventually, Yao Huang could not get in and could only laugh loudly, removing his disguise and explaining the truth. Even though he had lied to everyone, he had a great reputation and high cultivation level. None of the immortal zombies dared to offend him. In the end, they even sent him back courteously. Just as Yao Huang walked in, Yin Lu Gong arrived as well. "Oh, little Lu." Yao Huang looked back and greeted. Junior pays respects to Lord Yao Huang. Yin Lu Gong had a flattering expression as he went up and greeted. Right now, Zombie Alliance took up the mission just in time. That immortal zombie came to Yao tribe and my research was not held up. Speaking of which, it is all thanks to the cooperation of your Zombie Alliance. Yao Huang thanked while smiling. I am flattered, it is our honor to work with Lord Yao Huang. In the future, when Lord Yao Huang succeeds in the new healing immortal Gu, it would benefit the Gu immortals in Northern Plains as well. Yin Lu Gong was skilled at social relations, he spoke appropriate words. Yao Huang stretched out his wrinkled arm, grabbing Yin Lu Gong, "Come little Lu, sit together with me." Before Yin Lu Gong could reject him, he said to Qin Bai Sheng, "Little Qin, give us a single room." Thus, under everyone's envious gazes, the two entered the single room. Yao Huang was the first rank 8 Gu immortal to enter. Next, Heavenly Lord Bai Zhu, 5 Elements Grandmaster, and Old Ancestor Shui who appeared. Each of their appearances unavoidably caused a huge commotion. Before the appearance of Great Dream Immortal Venerable, rank 8 was the peak of the Gu immortal world's battle strength. The 5 rank 8 Gu immortals in Northern Plains were noble existences that earned much reverence from people. Among them, Old Ancestor Shui who was the number 1 person in the demonic path, he was the leader of Snowy Mountain Blessed Land. Yao Huang was the first supreme elder of Yao tribe, he was a rank 8 of the righteous path. Heavenly Lord Bai Zhu and 5 Elements Grandmaster were lone cultivators, they were neither righteous nor demonic, they were in the neutral faction. Lastly, there was Prince Feng Xian, he was also a righteous path Gu immortal. But he was only an external supreme elder of the super force Gong tribe. He did not have the Huang Jin bloodline in him, his status was rather awkward. Because he had some grievances with Gong tribe, he had been living outside for many years. He did not work for Gong tribe, only when Gong tribe encounters a huge crisis would he help out. Among the 5 rank 8s, 2 were righteous, 1 was demonic, and 2 were neutral. Such a relationship was also the current balance of power in Northern Plains. The next 3 rank 8 experts all chose single rooms. In the hall, there were already 40 to 50 people. Among the 5 rank 8s, 4 have already appeared. Only Prince Feng Xian is left. This is really a rare event that is hard to witness in hundreds of years, it is an eye-opening experience. To be able to leave an impression on these experts, this trip was worth it. Rank 8 grade experts are all glorious and have naturally imposing auras. I wonder what Prince Feng Xian's demeanor would be like. As everyone waited in anticipation, a cold-looking female Gu immortal walked in silently. It was Feng Gu, who had disguised himself as Fairy Yulan. Many people knew about Fairy Yulan and Prince Feng Xian's relationship, their attention was quickly drawn over. Qin Baixing quickly attended to him. Master is blending his grotto heaven's qi, I will be representing him for this auction. Feng Gu said, without laughing or smiling. He had huge guts, as an outside region's Gu immortal, he dared to attend the Northern Plains auction at this sensitive time. The moment he appeared, he announced this loudly, it was to deter the others, by using Prince Feng Xian as a shield, it would help him during the process of the auction. Hearing that Prince Feng Xian was not coming, a wave of disappointment came over the main hall. Feng Gu had a calm expression, vaguely familiar face was really an amazing killer move, none of the Gu immortals in the hall could see any flaws in his disguise. Of course, this also was because the Gu immortals were respecting each other and did not use investigative Gu to peek at one another for no reason. Especially when Fairy Yulan, who Feng Jiu Gu was disguised as, had a rank 8 great expert behind her. In addition, nobody would expect him to be so daring. Under everyone's shining gazes, Fairy Yulan walked into a single room. Like Feng Yuan, he toyed around with the mortal Gu and changed the environment in the room. Next, he grabbed the east window Gu and looked inside. Oh! The moment he looked at it, Feng Jiu's heart jumped. Worldly wave trace immortal Gu, delight in water and mountain immortal Gu, aren't these the core Gu worms for an immortal Gu house, water pavilion, of my sect? They actually appeared here. Shock flashed across Feng Jiu's eyes, but it quickly calmed and disappeared. This showed his supreme control over his own mental state. It seems that the supreme elders in the sect guessed correctly. Back then, our sect's saintess, Mo Yao, had brought Water Pavilion into Imperial Court Blessed Land. Without Water Pavilion's help, she would not have been able to enter Imperial Court Blessed Land. Now that Imperial Court Blessed Land was destroyed and 88 Truyang building collapsed, it seems that Water Pavilion also broke apart and the core Gu were taken by Northern Plains Gu immortals. Oh! There is calamity beckoning immortal Gu. According to the sect records, Saintess Mo Yao had once obtained the essence of luck path in 88 Truyang building, refining calamity beckoning immortal Gu to help her husband, Bo Qing. But Bo Qing's tribulation was too great. Even though calamity beckoning immortal Gu drew away part of the tribulation, they could not survive, both of them perished. Calamity beckoning immortal Gu was also destroyed in the process. To think that there is a new calamity beckoning immortal Gu. This discovery gave Feng Jiu Gu further suspicions. How did calamity beckoning immortal Gu come about? Who refined it? The person auctioning it? Or did it scatter into the outside world after Imperial Court Blessed Land was destroyed, thus being taken by someone? What did this have to do with Mo Yao? According to rumors, Mo Yao left behind an inheritance. Would this inheritance contain the way to refine calamity beckoning immortal Gu? At once, Feng Jiu Gu fell into deep thought. Many ideas appeared in his mind. He suddenly laughed. This auction was really worth coming to. The moment I entered, I obtained so many clues. In any case, I have to take back delight in water and mountain and worldly wave trace. Spirit Affinity House has lost Water Pavilion for too long. As for calamity beckoning immortal Gu, it is rank 7, the price for exchanging for it is very high. I'll see how things go first. Chapter 750, Auction, 4. Things progressed stably with the passage of time. The Gu immortals entering became fewer and fewer. After a while longer, Qin Baixing closed the entrance of his blessed land. He walked to the raised platform in front of the main hall, proclaiming briefly and to the point, "Ladies and gentlemen, the time has arrived, the auction will officially start." Strange, why have Fairy Li Shan and He Lu Lan not arrived? Tai Bai Yunxing transmitted a message to Feng Yuan. Yes, I am also puzzled. According to Fairy Li Shan's nature, she should be sitting in the main hall after she arrives. However, there is not even a trace of her. Feng Yuan replied. The auction currently has 3 spaces for participants, the main hall, single rooms and secret rooms. If they had chosen a secret room, they would have entered directly through secret pathways and not made a public appearance. But even if Fairy Li Shan entered a secret room, she would not have done so without even greeting us. Have you noticed this? There are no Gu immortals of He tribe present. Tai Bai Yunxing pointed it out. Feng Yuan mumbled, "We should first send a letter inquiring about the situation. Fairy Li Shan and He Lu Lan are bound to us by the Snowy Mountain Alliance, the possibility of them betraying us is not likely. If they encountered an ambush from He Cheng and others, with the strength of those two, they should have been able to send a message to request for support." While the two were secretly discussing, the first auction item was already displayed on the platform. Everyone should know, these are sky chief clouds. When they are spread out, they can stretch out for over 1,300 square kilometers. Such a large amount of sky chief clouds are rare even in treasure yellow heaven. The starting bid is 20 immortal essence stones. Every bid should be an increase of at least 5 immortal essence stones. Please start. Qin Baixing announced. Sky Chief Clouds, this is useful for my Tai by blessed land. Tai Bai Yunsheng's attention was immediately attracted, and he subconsciously utilized the prepared mortal goo in the secret room to make his bid. Qin Baixing sensed the bid and immediately announced, the 11th secret room bids 30 immortal essence stones. The next moment, a cloud path Gu immortal in the main hall shouted, 35 immortal essence stones. Tai Bai Yunsheng chuckled as he activated the mortal Gu to bid again. He directly raised the price by 10 to 45 immortal essence stones. 45 immortal essence stones were enough to buy a desolate beast corpse. The cloud path Gu immortal who had made the bid gritted his teeth, hesitating for a while but not making another bid. On the ground, there was the Earth Chief Beast, in the sky, there was the Sky Chief Beast. Within the immemorial 9 heavens, Sky Chief Beast groups more or less lived in each of the heavens. The so-called Sky Chief Clouds were formed from the breath of the Sky Chief Beast, condensing slowly over long periods of time. These clouds could construct an environment in the immortal aperture that could greatly increase the production of cloud path Gu worms. If a group of Sky Chief Beasts live in this cloudy environment, the effect would be even more wondrous, and if it was managed properly, there would be a never-ending flow of Sky Chief Clouds. However, the intact parts of the immemorial 9 heavens could only be explored by powerful rank 7 or rank 8 Gu immortals. Every Sky Chief Beast was at least a mutated Beast King, comparable to an ordinary Beast Emperor. And the king of every group of Sky Chief Beasts was essentially at desolate beast level. 45 immortal essence stones, going once. Qin Baixing spoke, seeing that there were no more bids. There are already large numbers of float ball tea in my blessed land. I will have the first batch of harvest at the end of this month. I intend to bring in jade hummingbirds later on. If I can add Sky Chief Clouds, I will have the building blocks to smoothly bring in sky flowers and floating sparrowhawks. Junior brother, you advanced to Gu Immortal later than me, but you already have experience in managing blessed lands through Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Can you tell me what you think of my plan? Tai Bai Yunsheng chuckled as he transmitted his voice to Fang Yuan. On the platform, Qin Baixing shouted again, 45 immortal essence stones, going twice. Fang Yuan pondered for a moment and replied to Tai Bai Yunsheng, sky flowers indeed grow on clouds, and floating sparrowhawks often are the host for cloud path Gu worms. Old Bai, are you thinking of cultivating both time path and cloud path? Yes. My time path abilities are specialized in healing. If I can add in cloud path, it can make up for the other shortcomings. Tai Bai Yunsheng said without reservation. He was originally skilled with cloud path in movement ability, his attainment reaching flying master realm using it. Later, he had dealings with Northern Plains Inkman King, Mo Tan Sang, who sold him the killer move 9 Cloud Ring for a low price. This deepened Tai Bai Yunsheng's interest in cloud path. Fang Yuan did not feel this choice was abrupt. At this moment, Qin Baixing shouted for the third time, 45 immortal essence stones for over 1,300 square kilometers of Sky Chief Clouds, going thry. Hold on, 55 immortal essence stones. The bid was just about to be decided, when suddenly a Gu immortal spoke up. His voice came from the 17th single room. Tai Bai Yunsheng had not expected such a change as he hurriedly made a bid, 60 immortal essence stones. This price finally dispelled any thoughts of buying from everyone present, allowing Tai Bai Yunsheng to get his wish. The second item for auction is a group of rare black spirit antelopes. The beast group's size reaches 320,000, and has 5 beast emperors. The lowest price is 10 immortal essence stones, every bid should be at least 4 immortal essence stones higher. The price can be lowered if you use vertical rainbow ointment to trade. Qin Baixing announced. Black spirit antelopes were already hard to find in northern plains. This beast group's size was so large, it should have been reared in some Gu immortal's immortal aperture. The Gu worms residing in black spirit antelopes were mainly soul path Gu worms, thus this especially attracted the attention of soul path Gu immortals. The Gu immortal putting this group of black spirit antelopes up for sale required a Gu refinement material, vertical rainbow ointment. Thus the bidding could be done using immortal essence stones or vertical rainbow ointment. A round of bidding passed, and this black spirit antelope group was purchased by a Gu immortal for 28 immortal essence stones. The third item is a set of Gu recipes that came from the medieval antiquity era. Its name is Inch of Time. It contains all the recipes from rank 1 to rank 5, and the crucial point is that these Gu recipes have already been improved. All of the refinement materials can be found commonly. The lowest price is 22 immortal essence stones, and you can also use the desolate beast, 6-headed snake skin to reduce the price. Qin Baixing announced. 23 immortal essence stones. Isn't it disgraceful to add only 1 immortal essence stone? 30 immortal essence stones. I bid 32. This time, there were clearly more Gu immortals bidding than the previous 2 times. Inch of Time was a time path Gu worm which could not be used on humans but could be used on other targets, and was extensively used in Gu refinement. For instance, if a Gu worm required 3 days and 3 nights to be refined, and the Inch of Time Gu was used, it would quickly reach the state that required 3 days and 3 nights of time, by accelerating the growth and transformation of the Gu worm. And the amount of time the Gu master would have to spend probably would only be few short moments. Fang Yuan had obtained the Gu recipe for the olden antiquity era's group strength Gu, the market price of which was only 2 immortal essence stones. Inch of Time was only a Gu recipe from the medieval antiquity era, but it was a complete set, from the rank 1 Gu, 1 inch of time, to the rank 5 Gu, 5 inches of time. The most important point was that this Gu recipe had already been improved by the Gu immortal. All the Gu refinement materials required also conformed to the present situation and were not difficult to obtain. It was not like the original Gu recipe, in which many refinement materials would be extremely scarce, expensive or extinct. This point determined the explosive increase in the price, reaching the base price of 22 immortal essence stones. Soon, the bidding reached 48 immortal essence stones. Tai Bai Yunxing also made his bid at this time, 58 immortal essence stones. He increased the price by 10 immortal essence stones at once, attempting to scare off the competitors. Tai Bai Yunxing was rich, even more so than Fang Yuan. He had landscape as before and man as before, 2 great time path healing immortal Gu, and therefore was very much sought after in Eastern Sea. Especially in the exploration of Yulu blessed land, they might have failed, but he had used man as before to save a Gu immortal. This Gu immortal gave him 100 or so immortal essence stones as remuneration, and also said he owed Tai Bai Yunxing a favor which he would pay in the future. Most crucially, Tai Bai Yunxing's blessed land was healthy and produced green grape immortal essence at every fixed interval of time. His green grape immortal essence was accumulating day by day, to the extent that he could not use them all up. His Tai Bai blessed land's time flow was 33 times faster than the outside world, nearly the same as He Lu land's super-grade blessed land. This was because his was a high-grade blessed land and he was also a time path Gu immortal. Thus, in the aspect of time path resources, it was rather outstanding. One day in the outside world would be a month in Tai Bai Yunxing's blessed land. In theory, blessed lands would produce green grape immortal essence every month. In the same given time for the outside world, the amount of green grape immortal essence Tai Bai Yunxing obtained was several times or even 10 times higher than ordinary rank 6 Gu immortals. On the contrary, Fang Yuan might have got Gu business, but he had to handle all sorts of expenses, especially the constant converting of immortal essence stones to green grape immortal essence. His immortal aperture was dead and could no longer produce immortal essence, moreover it would crumble and shrink every set interval of time, which was an extremely large setback to him. Tai Bai Yunsheng's bid indeed scared off most of the competing Gu immortals. But there was still some who persisted. As the bid increased with 2 additional offers, the price had slowly risen to 66 immortal essence stones. 66 immortal essence stones to purchase a set of mortal Gu recipes. Some of the low-level Gu immortals in the main hall were tongue-tied. It can't be considered expensive. Inch of time cannot be used on oneself, but it can be used to save time and has wide range of applications like reducing the duration of Gu refinement. If you consider it in the long term, especially for those Gu immortals who also cultivate refinement path, they can use inch of time to slowly accumulate savings worth 66 immortal essence stones. A Gu immortal calmly analyzed. This price is already at the peak. It would be unwise to raise the price further. Unless you have a special requirement for it. Another Gu immortal added his analysis. 66 immortal essence stones, going once. Qin Baixing started to close the bids. At this moment, Fang Yuan transmitted his voice to Tai Bai Yunsheng, "Old Bai, let's split the immortal essence stones and make the bid together." Tai Bai Yunsheng was happy, "Junior brother, you also have the intent to get it, that is good." He thus raised the price directly to 68. Only one other Gu immortal continued to bid, adding 1 immortal essence stone. Finally, Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunsheng paid an expensive price of 70 immortal essence stones to finish the purchase of Inch of Time. Time passed by, one after another, treasures continued to be auctioned off. The competition in the main hall was getting more fierce and the atmosphere had also turned fiery. Many Gu immortals lost their bearings and started arguing. Although they had sense and calmness, with large profits in front, they could not help being flushed with agitation. After dozens of items were auctioned off, some low-leveled Gu immortals already became powerless to continue fighting, some were perspiring, some were pale, while many were exhausted. The bidding did not only compare wealth but also involved psychological battles. Gradually, rank 6 Gu immortal bidders became sparser. Rank 6 Gu immortals usually had several hundreds of immortal essence stones of savings, while rank 7 would have several thousands or over 10,000 directly in their hands. At rank 8, having several tens of thousands available was a certainty. And those who had accumulated over the years would have hundreds of thousands of immortal essence stones in hand. The stronger the cultivation, the more resources they owned. Ordinary rank 6s had too weak of a foundation. Fortunately, they could lower the price with other goods, otherwise most of them would have already been completely out of the game. Fang Yuan also only had few hundred immortal essence stones. He had made bids, but there were very few successes while most failed, and he was still waiting patiently for the main show. Finally, he heard Qin Baixing announce, "Next, we shall begin the auction of immortal Gu. The most important part is here." Fang Yuan's eyes brightened. Not only him, other Gu immortals were also invigorated. The previous auction could only be considered the prelude, the true event had just taken stage. Immortal Gu trade.